The house still smells like her. Jim Thornton stands in the doorway of the lake house, suitcase in one hand, keys in the other, and the scent hits him like a physical blow. Lavender. She tucks sachets in every drawer, every closet, every corner of this place. Said it reminded her of her grandmother's garden. Said it made a house feel like a home. 14 months. 14 months since he scattered her ashes on the water. 14 months since he locked this door and drove away, unable to face the silence that waited inside. But his daughter Emily called 3 days ago, voice gentle but firm. "Dad, you need to go back. Mom would want you there. You can't avoid it forever." She was right. Eleanor would have hated seeing him like this, hollowed out, going through motions, existing but not living. So here he is, back at Crystal Lake, Colorado. Back at the place where they plan to spend their retirement. Back at the house they renovated together over 20 years. Every board and nail a shared decision. Every room holding 1,000 memories. Jim steps inside and the past floods over him. The piano in the corner. Eleanor played every Sunday morning. Mozart mostly, sometimes Chopin when she was feeling melancholy. He can almost hear it now. Her fingers dancing across the keys. Sunlight streaming through the windows, coffee brewing in the kitchen, the reading chair by the fireplace. Her chair. The cushion still holds the indent of her body. Her reading glasses rest on the side table exactly where she left them. A bookmark holds her place in a novel she will never finish. The kitchen. God, the kitchen. Her domain. Recipe cards in her handwriting line the countertop. A half-finished crossword puzzle sits on the breakfast table, her pen beside it. She always did crosswords in the morning, claimed it woke up her brain. She never finished this one. Never got the chance. Jim sets down his suitcase and walks through the house slowly, a surveyor assessing damage. He is, after all, an engineer. Was an engineer. Retired now at 58, though some days he feels 100 years old. The engineer in him wants to catalog everything, measure the decay, calculate the repairs needed after 14 months of abandonment. But the widower in him just wants to sit down and weep. He does neither. Instead, he moves to the bedroom, opens the closet. Her dresses still hang there. He cannot bring himself to donate them. Cannot stand the thought of Eleanor's favorite blue sundress, the one with white flowers, ending up in some thrift store bin. She wore that dress the day he proposed, wore it to their daughter's college graduation, wore it the last summer before the diagnosis. Jim touches the fabric. Soft cotton, faded from years of washing and sun. It smells like lavender and something else, something uniquely Eleanor. He presses it to his face and the grief crashes over him again, fresh as the day she died. He allows himself 60 seconds. That is his rule. When the wave comes, he can ride it for 60 seconds. Then he has to breathe, stand up, keep moving. Eleanor would not want him drowning in sorrow. She would want him to heal, to rebuild, to find some way forward. 60 seconds pass. Jim hangs the dress back carefully, closes the closet, and walks to her desk. This was her space. He never touched it, never even sat in her chair. Eleanor kept everything here. Bills, correspondence, her journal, family documents. After she died, Emily offered to help sort through it, but Jim could not face it then. Could not stand the thought of boxing up Eleanor's life, filing it away like finished business. But Emily was insistent on the phone. "Dad, Mom left something for you." In her desk. She wanted you to find it when you were ready. Jim opens the top drawer. Inside, beneath a stack of paid bills and old birthday cards, he finds a cream-colored envelope. His name on the front in Eleanor's graceful handwriting. James, not Jim. She only called him James when she was being serious. His hands shake as he opens it. The letter inside is dated 6 months before her diagnosis. Before either of them knew the cancer was growing, before everything changed. "My dearest Jim," it begins, and his vision blurs. He blinks hard, forces himself to focus, keeps reading. "My dearest Jim, if you are reading this, I am gone. I am sorry. I am so sorry I could not stay longer. But I need you to know something. There are people who will try to take this lake, our lake, the place where we built our life together. They will use legal language and community pressure and every tool they have. Do not let them. In the safety deposit box at First National, you will find documents. Original deed from 1968 when my grandfather bought this property. Transfer documents from when he left it to me, surveys, titles, everything you need. Protect this place, Jim, not because it is ours, but because it should belong to everyone. I have plans, big plans. I want to make this a conservation area, public access, nature education, a place where everyone, not just the wealthy, can experience the beauty we have been blessed to enjoy. But there are people who will fight this, who want to control it, who see it as a commodity instead of a gift. Please, my love, do not let them win. Fight for this, for us, for our memories, for what this lake represents. The documents are in box 447. Emily has the second key. I love you. I have loved you since the moment you asked me to dance at that terrible graduate school mixer. I will love you forever, even when I am just water and light on this lake. Always yours, Eleanor. Jim reads the letter 3 times. Each time, certain words stand out. People who will try to take this lake. Fight for this. Do not let them win. Eleanor knew. Somehow, she knew someone would come for this place. She prepared for a battle she would not live to fight, and she trusted him to fight it for her. Jim folds the letter carefully, slides it back into the envelope, and places it in his shirt pocket, close to his heart. Then he stands, moves to the window, and looks out at Crystal Lake. The water is glass smooth in the early morning light. 47 acres of pristine Colorado beauty. His wife's family owned this land since 1968. Eleanor inherited it when her grandfather passed in 2010. They spent 15 years making plans. Retire here, grow old here, watch grandchildren learn to fish from the dock Jim built with his own hands. She got to do some of that, got to see their daughter Emily grow up, got to hold baby Eleanor Grace for 3 precious months before the cancer took her. But she never got to see the conservation area, never got to open the lake to the public, never got to complete her dream. Jim will complete it for her. But first, he needs to understand what he is up against. Eleanor's letter mentioned people trying to take the lake. Who and how? He decides to start the way he always starts, with observation, with data, with a clear assessment of the current situation. Jim grabs his fishing rod from the garage, the one Eleanor bought him for his 50th birthday, and heads down to the dock. The morning is cool and quiet. Mist rises from the water. Birds call from the trees. This is the peace Eleanor loved. This is what she wanted to protect. Jim casts his line into the water and waits. Fishing, Eleanor used to say, is the art of patient observation. You watch the water, read the currents, understand the ecosystem. Then you act at precisely the right moment. She was talking about more than fish. She was talking about life. Jim is watching the ripples spread from where his lure hit the water, when a voice shatters the morning silence. "Excuse me, you there, stop!" He turns. A woman is power walking along the shore, moving toward him with the determined stride of someone used to being obeyed. She is maybe 52, 53, wearing expensive athletic wear and an expression of righteous indignation. She stops 15 feet from the dock, hands on hips. "You cannot fish here," she says. Not asks, states. "This is community lake property. Do you have an HOA permit?" Jim stares at her. "I'm sorry, what?" HOA permit, Homeowners Association. This lake is managed by the Pine Ridge HOA. All fishing requires a permit and payment of the annual recreation fee. Are you a member? "I own this house," Jim says slowly. "My wife and I have owned this property since 2010. "The house, yes," the woman says, as if explaining something obvious to a child. "But the lake is HOA property. Everyone knows that. I am Linda Westbrook, HOA Vice President. I have sold 80 homes in this development. The lake access is our main amenity. I have all the documentation." Jim feels something cold settle in his chest. Not anger yet. Not quite. Just a growing awareness that Eleanor's warning was not theoretical. "My wife's grandfather bought this lake in 1968, he says carefully. "It has been in her family for over 50 years. Linda waves this away like an irrelevant detail. "Sir, I do not know what you think you know, but the HOA has owned this lake since 2016. We purchased the recreational rights. It is all properly documented with the county." She pulls out her phone and takes a photograph of him. The click of the camera shutter feels like a violation. "What are you doing?" Jim asks. Documenting the violation. Unauthorized lake use carries a $500 fine. You will receive formal notice within 3 business days. She turns to leave, then pauses. I suggest you familiarize yourself with HOA regulations, Mr. She looks at him expectantly. Thornton, James Thornton. Something flickers across her face. Recognition, maybe, or calculation. Well, Mr. Thornton, ignorance of the rules is not an excuse. Have a nice day. She power walks away, already typing on her phone. Probably posting about this on some neighborhood social media group. Probably painting him as a rule breaker, a trespasser, someone who thinks regulations do not apply to them. Jim reels in his line slowly. His hands are steady, but his mind is racing. The HOA owns the lake? Purchased recreational rights in 2016? That is impossible. Eleanor would never have sold. She was already planning the conservation area, already talking to attorneys about how to protect this place forever. Unless someone forged documents, unless someone lied. Jim walks back to the house, sets down his fishing rod, and returns to Eleanor's desk. He searches through files, looking for anything related to the HOA, any correspondence, any legal documents. He finds Eleanor's journal instead. She kept it sporadically, not every day, just when something important happened. Jim has never read it before. It felt like an invasion of privacy, even after her death. But Eleanor left him that letter. She wanted him to know, wanted him to understand. He opens the journal to 2016. March 15th, 2016. Vanessa called today, asked if I would consider selling lake access rights to the new HOA. Said developers would pay well. I said absolutely not. She seemed angry? Hurt. I do not understand why this matters so much to her. Jim's breath catches. Vanessa. He knows that name. Eleanor's college roommate. Her best friend once upon a time. They lost touch years ago. Some falling out Eleanor never wanted to discuss. He keeps reading. April 3rd, 2016. Vanessa called again. More aggressive this time. Said I am being selfish, keeping the lake private when the community could benefit. I tried to explain my conservation plans. She cut me off. Said I am playing at charity with inherited wealth. That hurt. We have not spoken in weeks. May 12th, 2016. Saw Vanessa at the grocery store. She walked right past me, did not even make eye contact. What happened to us? We used to be sisters. August 8th, 2016. Vanessa sent a formal letter today. HOA, offering $1.5 million for recreational rights. I called her. She would not answer. Left voicemail. Some things are not for sale. This lake is family legacy. It is meant to be shared freely, not purchased by the wealthy. She texted back one word. Selfish. The entries continue, each one documenting Vanessa's increasing pressure, each one showing Eleanor's growing concern. January 20th, 2017. Vanessa came to the house today, uninvited, demanded I reconsider the HOA offer. I refused. She called me ungrateful, said I do not appreciate what I have, that I married well and inherited money and never had to fight for anything. I told her that is not fair. She said life is not fair and left. I am worried about her. She seems consumed by something dark. March 15th, 2017. Vanessa is now on the HOA board. Vice President. She is using her position to put pressure on me. Code enforcement visited yesterday. Said my dock does not meet new specifications. It is the same dock Jim built 10 years ago. This is targeted harassment. November 3rd, 2017. I am scared. Not of Vanessa, but for her. She has become someone I do not recognize. She sent a letter threatening legal action if I do not sell lake rights. I consulted with Harold Morrison, my attorney. He is filing additional protections, making sure the lake cannot be taken. Ever. The final entry is dated 2 weeks before Eleanor's cancer diagnosis. December 1st, 2017. Vanessa came by again. I refused to let her in. She stood on the porch and said, "You will regret this, Eleanor. One way or another, you will regret keeping what should be shared." I told her I am planning to make it public. A real conservation area. Free for everyone. She laughed, called it performative charity. Then she said something I cannot stop thinking about. You always had everything, Eleanor. Perfect life, perfect husband, perfect inheritance. Some of us had to claw for every scrap we have, and you just float above it all. I tried to respond, but she walked away. I feel like I have lost my best friend, and I do not even understand why. Jim closes the journal. His hands are shaking now, not from grief, from anger. Vanessa, Eleanor's oldest friend, someone she loved like a sister, someone who twisted that love into resentment and used her position in the HOA to harass Eleanor in her final years. Jim needs more information. He needs to understand what he is dealing with. He leaves the house and walks the perimeter of the lake, really looking this time. What he sees makes his engineer's mind calculate rapidly. HOA signs. Everywhere. Members only. No trespassing. Pine Ridge Community Lake. Every 50 feet, a new sign. All professional, all official looking, all on his property. A new dock. Cheap construction composite materials instead of the treated timber he used. It juts 40 feet into the water, blocking the swimming cove where Emily learned to swim. A paved walking path, 2 miles long, circling the entire lake. Cut straight through the wildflower meadow Eleanor spent 10 years cultivating. And at the north end, construction equipment, excavators, lumber stacks, concrete forms. A sign, future site of Pine Ridge Lake Pavilion. Grand opening summer 2024. They are building on his land, without permission, without authorization. Jim pulls out his phone and starts taking photographs, documenting everything, angles, measurements, property markers. The engineer in him needs data, evidence, proof. He is so focused on photographing the construction site that he does not hear the footsteps behind him until a voice speaks. "Can I help you?" Jim turns. An elderly woman stands there. Maybe 75, 76 years old. White hair, kind eyes, a touch of wariness in her expression. "I am sorry," Jim says. "I did not mean to startle you. I am James Thornton. I own the lake house over there." He points. The woman's expression transforms. Wariness becomes warmth. "James Thornton, Eleanor's husband? You knew my wife?" "Knew her? Dear boy, I knew her grandparents. I have lived in Pine Ridge since 1975. I am Dorothy Patterson." She offers her hand. Jim shakes it. Her grip is surprisingly firm. "I heard Eleanor passed," Dorothy says gently. "I am so very sorry. She was a lovely woman. Waved to me every morning. Always had a kind word." "Thank you," Jim says. "Did you know her well?" "Not as well as I wish I had. I moved into my current house in 2016. Smaller place. Easier to manage after my Henry died. Eleanor brought me cookies when I moved in. Sat with me while I cried about leaving our old home. That was the kind of person she was." Dorothy looks at the construction equipment and her expression hardens. They are building that monstrosity right where she used to garden. She told me once this meadow had 17 species of native wildflowers. All gone now, paved over. "Did Eleanor ever tell you about her plans for the lake?" Jim asks carefully. Dorothy nods. She wanted to make it public, a real conservation area. She was excited about it, said everyone deserves access to natural beauty, not just people who can afford expensive homes. She pauses. That was 2017, I think, right before she got sick. "Did she ever mention selling lake rights to the HOA? Dorothy looks shocked. "Sell? No, never. She was quite firm about that. I remember because the real estate agent, Linda Westbrook, the woman who sold me my house, she kept pushing Eleanor to reconsider. Eleanor finally told Linda to stop asking, or she would file harassment charges." Jim feels the cold certainty settle deeper. "Dorothy, when you bought your house, what did Linda Westbrook tell you about the lake?" Dorothy shifts uncomfortably. "She said it was a community amenity, deeded access through HOA ownership. That was a major selling point for me. I paid $85,000 more for this house specifically because of the lake access." "Did she show you documentation proving the HOA owned the lake?" "She showed me HOA bylaws. They listed the lake as a managed community asset. I assumed it was legitimate." Dorothy's eyes widen. "Are you saying it was not?" "I am saying my wife would never have sold this lake. Her family owned it for over 50 years. She was planning to protect it, not privatize it." Dorothy sits down heavily on a nearby bench. "Oh dear, oh my dear. If the HOA does not own the lake, then I was defrauded. We all were." "How many houses?" Jim asked. "In Pine Ridge? 180. Most bought between 2016 and 2023. All sold with lake access as a premium amenity." Dorothy looks at him. If that access was fraudulent, every homeowner has a legal claim. We all paid extra for something that did not exist. Jim's mind is already calculating. 180 homes, average premium of 50 to 100,000 per house. That is $9 to $18 million in fraudulent sales. This is bigger than he thought, much bigger. Dorothy, he says carefully, do you know who runs the HOA? Vanessa Cole, HOA president. She has been in charge since 2018. Dorothy pauses. Why do I feel like you recognize that name? Because she was my wife's best friend, once. Dorothy's hand goes to her mouth. Oh no. Before Jim can respond, his phone buzzes. Text message from an unknown number. Formal HO. Unauthorized lake access. Fine. $500. Payment due within 10 business days. Failure to comply will result in lien against property at 247 Lakeshore Drive. The message includes a photo. Jim, fishing from his own dock this morning. They work fast, Dorothy says, reading over his shoulder. They have been planning this a long time, Jim replies. His phone buzzes again. This time it is an email. Subject, Pine Ridge HOA community meeting tonight. Jim opens it. The meeting is at 7 p.m. at the community center. Agenda includes a vote on the lake enhancement project. Budget, $2.4 million. You should come, Dorothy says. See what you are up against. Jim nods. I think I will, That evening, Jim arrives at the Pine Ridge Community Center 15 minutes early. The parking lot is already half full. He parks in the back, watches people arrive. Families, retirees, young professionals, all Pine Ridge residents, all people who believe they own a piece of his lake. He waits until 7:02, then enters quietly and takes a seat in the back row. The room holds about 60 people. At the front, a long table with 5 chairs. 4 are occupied by HOA board members. The 5th, the center chair, is empty. At precisely 7:05, she enters. Vanessa Cole. Jim has not seen her in years. Not since Eleanor's funeral, where she stood in the back, sent flowers, left before anyone could speak to her. She looks older now, 55 maybe, still put together, still commanding. She wears a black blazer, white blouse, an expression of absolute authority. She takes her seat and the room quiets. Good evening, Vanessa says. Her voice carries, confident, controlled. Thank you all for coming. We have an exciting agenda tonight. She clicks to the first slide of her presentation, an architectural rendering of a massive 3-story building. Glass walls, wraparound decks, a commercial kitchen. The Pine Ridge Lake Pavilion, Vanessa announces. A community gathering space, event venue, restaurant, the centerpiece of our lake enhancement project. The crowd murmurs appreciatively. Someone claps. Vanessa continues, total project cost, $2.4 million, funding through special HOA assessment and community bonds. Construction begins next week. Completion target, summer 2024. She clicks through more slides. Architectural plans, cost breakdowns, artist renderings of happy families enjoying the pavilion. Jim sits very still, watching, calculating. The location of the pavilion in those renderings is unmistakable. The North Meadow, where Eleanor's wildflowers grew, where he scattered half her ashes. They are going to build a restaurant on his wife's grave. Vanessa opens the floor to questions. Residents ask about parking, noise levels, whether it will increase property values. No one asks whether the HOA actually owns the land they are building on. Jim waits, lets the questions die down, then raises his hand. Vanessa's eyes scan the room and land on him. She freezes, just for a second. A micro-expression of shock that she quickly buries beneath professional composure. Yes, she says. The gentleman in the back, Jim stands. I have a question about lake ownership. The room goes quiet. The lake is HOA property, Vanessa says smoothly. Purchased in 2017, all properly documented. I would like to see that documentation, Jim says. His voice is calm, engineer calm. The tone he used in project meetings when he knew someone was lying about structural integrity. It is available at the HOA office during business hours, Vanessa replies. I'm asking to see it now. Vanessa's smile does not reach her eyes. And you are? James Thornton. My wife Eleanor owned the property at 247 Lakeshore Drive, the lake house. She inherited the lake from her grandfather in 2010. The murmuring starts immediately. Residents turning to each other, whispering, someone pulls out a phone, starts searching property records. Vanessa's composure cracks slightly. "James, I did not realize you were here." "Clearly," he says. "Perhaps we could discuss this after the meeting," Vanessa suggests. "In private." "I think the community deserves to hear this," Jim says. "You are voting on spending $2.4 million to build on land you claim to own. I am saying my wife never sold that land. I want to see proof of purchase." Vanessa stands. She is good at this, Jim realizes. She has done this before, controlled the narrative, redirected conflict. "Everyone," she says, addressing the room. "This is James Thornton. His late wife Eleanor and I were friends many years ago. I understand he is grieving. Grief can cause confusion about legal matters. The sympathy play, painting him as the unstable widower who does not understand reality. My wife kept meticulous records," Jim says evenly, "including her journal, including correspondence with you, Vanessa, including your repeated demands that she sell lake access. Demands she refused, every single time." Vanessa's face hardens. "That was years ago. Things changed." "What changed?" "Eleanor reconsidered. In 2017, she agreed to sell recreational rights. She was in the hospital in November 2017, Jim says. Emergency surgery. She could not have signed documents that month." Someone in the audience gasps. Jim sees Dorothy Patterson in the third row, nodding encouragingly. "The documents were signed earlier," Vanessa says quickly. "November was just the filing date." "Then you will have no problem showing me the notarized signature," Jim replies, "with date stamps and witness verification." Vanessa's jaw tightens. "As I said, we can discuss this privately." "No," Jim says, "we discuss it here, now, in front of everyone who is about to vote on your proposal." The room is silent, every eye moving between Jim and Vanessa like spectators at a tennis match. Vanessa sits down. When she speaks again, her voice is cold. "James, I understand you are having trouble accepting Eleanor's death, but she made her decision. She sold the lake rights to benefit this community. The documents are legal and binding. If you want to challenge them, hire a lawyer, but do not disrupt our meeting with baseless accusations." "Baseless?" Jim pulls out his phone, opens the photo of Eleanor's journal entry, holds it up. "My wife's journal, January 2017, quote, Vanessa threatened legal action if I do not sell lake rights. I am scared. I consulted my attorney to protect the property." End quote. The murmuring becomes a roar. Vanessa stands again. "This meeting is adjourned. Board members, please stay for executive session. Everyone else, thank you for your time." She is trying to shut him down, trying to clear the room before this escalates further. But Dorothy Patterson stands. "I have a question for Mr. Thornton." Vanessa looks like she wants to object, but residents are paying attention now. She cannot silence a 76-year-old woman without looking tyrannical. "Yes, ma'am," Jim says. "If the HOA does not own the lake," Dorothy says clearly, "does that mean those of us who paid premium prices for lake access were defrauded?" Silence, then chaos. Residents start talking all at once, demanding answers, pulling up their purchase agreements on phones, calculating how much extra they paid. Linda Westbrook, the real estate agent who confronted Jim this morning, stands up. "Dorothy, the lake ownership is completely legitimate. I have sold 80 homes here. Every transaction was legal." "Did you verify HOA ownership before making those claims?" Dorothy asks. "Or did you take Vanessa's word for it?" Linda falters. "The HOA provided documentation." "What documentation?" Jim asks. "Because my wife's attorney filed updated deed protections in 2018, after she died, specifically to prevent anyone from fraudulently claiming ownership." Vanessa's face goes white. Jim presses the advantage. "Her attorney's name is Harold Morrison. He has every document related to this property. Original deed from 1968, transfer records, survey maps, all filed with Jefferson County. If your documents contradict his, one of us is lying." "Get out," Vanessa says quietly. "Excuse me?" "Get out of this meeting now, or I will have you removed for harassment." Jim does not move. "I am not harassing anyone. I am asking legitimate questions about property rights." Vanessa turns to the HOA board. "Call security." A man in the front row stands. Older gentleman, maybe 70. "Vanessa, I think we need to hear this. If there is any question about lake ownership, we should resolve it before voting on $2.4 million in construction." "Thomas, this is not the time," Vanessa snaps. "I disagree," another board member says. A woman, mid-40s. "Mr. Thornton, what would you need to see to verify your claim?" Jim reaches into his jacket and pulls out a folded paper. He has been carrying it since this afternoon. A copy of the 1968 deed, pulled from Eleanor's files. He walks to the front and hands it to the woman. She reads it. Her expression changes. This shows Eleanor Whitmore Thornton as owner of Crystal Lake and surrounding property, 47 acres, transferred from Robert Whitmore in 2010. She looks at Vanessa. Do we have documentation showing purchase from Eleanor Thornton? Vanessa does not answer. Vanessa, the woman presses. Do we have proof of purchase? It is in the files, Vanessa says tightly. Then get the files, the older gentleman says. Right now. Vanessa stares at Jim. The mask is gone. What he sees in her eyes is not just anger. It is something deeper, something that looks almost like grief. You should not have come back, she says quietly. Only Jim hears it. Eleanor would have wanted you to let this go. You did not know my wife as well as you think, Jim replies. She wanted me to fight for this. She told me so. Vanessa's eyes glisten. For just a moment, Jim sees the woman Eleanor once called her best friend, sees the pain beneath the anger. Then Vanessa turns away. Meeting adjourned, board members, executive session. Everyone else leave. But the damage is done. Residents are not leaving. They are gathering in clusters, arguing, demanding answers. Dorothy is organizing a group of elderly homeowners in the corner. Linda Westbrook is on her phone, probably calling her broker, her attorney, anyone who can tell her how much trouble she is in. And Vanessa stands at the front of the room, alone. Her perfect control shattered. Jim leaves. He has said what he needed to say, planted the seeds of doubt, made it impossible for Vanessa to proceed without scrutiny. Outside, the night air is cool. Jim sits in his truck for a long moment processing. His phone rings. Emily. Hey, sweetheart, he says. Dad, I got your message about the safety deposit box. I am coming this weekend. I will bring the key. Thank you. Dad, what is going on? Your message said Mom warned you about people trying to take the lake. Who? Jim looks back at the community center. Through the windows, he can see Vanessa and the board arguing. Your mother's oldest friend, he says. Someone she loved like a sister. Emily is quiet for a moment. Vanessa Cole? You remember her? I remember Mom crying after they stopped talking. I was in high school. I asked what happened. Mom said sometimes people change in ways you cannot follow. Sometimes love is not enough to bridge the gap. Emily pauses. Is it really that bad? Jim thinks about the signs on his property, the construction equipment, the pavilion planned for Eleanor's resting place. Yes, he says, it is really that bad. Then we fight, Emily says firmly. Mom asked you to protect the lake, so we protect it. We? You think I am letting you do this alone? I am 8 months pregnant, but I can still read legal documents and make phone calls. We are in this together, Dad. Jim feels something unlock in his chest, the first real warmth since Eleanor died. Thank you, baby girl. Always. Get some sleep. I will see you Saturday. Jim drives back to the lake house, pulls into the driveway, sits for a moment looking at the dark windows. He should be exhausted, should be overwhelmed, but instead, he feels something he has not felt in 14 months. Purpose. Eleanor left him a mission. Protect the lake. Finish her dream. Make it the conservation area she always planned. Not because it is his, but because it should belong to everyone. And standing in the way is Vanessa Cole, the woman Eleanor once loved, the woman who could not handle Eleanor's happiness and turned love into resentment. Jim gets out of the truck and walks down to the water. The moon is full, reflecting on the still surface. Somewhere out there, in the water and the light, Eleanor is present. He speaks quietly to the lake, to the memory, to the woman he loved. I understand now. You warned me, you prepared me. You knew Vanessa would try this after you were gone. The water ripples slightly. Wind, probably. But Jim chooses to believe it is Eleanor listening. I will fight for this, Eleanor. Not with anger, not with vengeance, but with truth. The way you would want. He stands there until the cold drives him inside. Makes coffee. Sits at Eleanor's desk. Opens her journal and reads every entry about Vanessa. A story emerges. A friendship that soured. A woman whose own pain twisted into bitterness. Who saw Eleanor's life as evidence of unfairness rather than recognizing that everyone carries burdens. Eleanor tried to help, offered support, friendship, love. But Vanessa could not accept it, could not see past her own resentment. And now Vanessa is using her position to take the one thing Eleanor wanted to protect. Jim reads until 3 a.m. Then he finally sleeps. And in his sleep, he dreams. Eleanor stands on this dock in her blue sundress, the one with white flowers. She is smiling, but her eyes are sad. "Find the truth, my love," she says. "Do not let her win. Not because of the lake, because she needs to face what she has done. Set her free, Jim. Even if she does not deserve it, set her free." Jim wakes with Eleanor's voice still echoing. Set her free, not destroy her, not crush her. Set her free. Even now, even from beyond death, Eleanor is asking him to show grace to the woman who betrayed her. Jim sits up in the pre-dawn darkness. Outside, the lake waits, silent, patient, full of memories and promises in Eleanor's dream. He has a choice. He can fight for justice, for property rights, for legal victory. Or he can fight for something bigger, for the truth that sets everyone free, for the healing Eleanor always believed was possible. Jim picks up his phone, calls Harold Morrison, Eleanor's attorney, leaves a message. "Harold, it is Jim Thornton, Eleanor's husband. I need your help. All the documents related to Crystal Lake, everything she filed, everything she protected. I need it all, because someone is trying to steal what she died protecting. And I am going to stop them, not just for me, for her, for everyone she wanted this lake to serve." He hangs up, makes coffee, watches the sunrise paint the water gold. The fight is coming, but he is ready, because Eleanor asked him to protect this place. And he will. Not because he is angry, not because he wants revenge, but because some promises matter more than grief. Some battles matter more than peace. Some legacies are worth fighting for. And this lake, his wife's dream, is all three. The sun clears the mountains and light floods across the water. A new day, a new fight. Jim Thornton is ready. Saturday arrives with low clouds and the smell of rain. Jim wakes at dawn, as he has every day since Eleanor died, and makes coffee in the silent kitchen. 2 cups. He still cannot break the habit. Eleanor always took hers with cream and 1 sugar. He drinks his black. The second cup sits untouched until it goes cold. Then he pours it down the sink and hates himself a little for the waste. Emily is driving up from Denver, 4 hours with an 8-month pregnant belly and a lockbox full of secrets her mother kept. Jim has been awake since 4 a.m., unable to sleep, running scenarios in his mind the way he used to run structural calculations. If Eleanor filed protections in 2018 and Vanessa claims the HOA purchased rights in 2017, someone is lying. The timeline does not work. The math does not add up. Engineers live and die by math. Numbers do not have agendas. They simply are. At 9:30, Emily's car pulls into the driveway. Jim is out the door before she can turn off the engine. His daughter emerges slowly, one hand on her lower back, the other cradling her belly. She is beautiful in the way pregnant women are beautiful, glowing, terrified, fierce. She looks so much like Eleanor it hurts. "Hi, Dad," she says. And then she is in his arm. They stand there in the driveway, holding each other. Jim has not hugged another human being since Eleanor's funeral. He forgot how much he needed it. "Come inside," he says finally. "You need to sit down." Emily laughs. "I need to pee, actually. This baby thinks my bladder is a trampoline." Inside, Emily settles onto the couch with a glass of water and the lockbox on the coffee table between them. It is small, brushed steel, surprisingly heavy. Eleanor's name is engraved on a brass plate on top. "Before we open it," Emily says, "I need to tell you something. Something Mom made me promise not to tell you until after she was gone." Jim's chest tightens. "What kind of something?" Emily's eyes fill with tears. "Mom knew she was sick months before she told you." The world tilts slightly. "What?" "She found the lump in January 2017. She did not get it checked until March. By then it had spread to her lymph nodes. Stage 3. Jim sits down hard. "Why would she not tell me?" "Grandma had just died. You were grieving. Mom said you could not handle both losses at once. She wanted to give you a few more months of normal before everything changed." Jim puts his head in his hands. Eleanor knew. She knew she was dying, and she protected him anyway, even at the cost of earlier treatment. Even knowing delay might mean the difference between stage 3 and stage 4. "I should have noticed," he says. "She hit it well," Emily replies. "She was good at that, protecting people, even when it hurt her." Jim thinks about those months, January through March 2017. Eleanor seemed tired, yes, quieter than usual, but he attributed it to grief over his mother's death. Never suspected, never thought to push. There is more, Emily says gently. Those last few months, before she got too sick to work, Mom was obsessed with securing the lake. She met with attorneys 3 times a week, filed updated deeds, established environmental protections, set up the framework for the conservation area. She was racing against time, Jim says. She was making sure you would have everything you needed to fight. Because she knew Dad. She knew Vanessa would come for it after she was gone. Jim looks up. How did she know? Emily opens the lockbox. Inside are documents, letters, a flash drive, and one more envelope addressed to Jim. Because Vanessa told her, Emily says. She hands him the flash drive. Mom recorded their last conversation, the one in hospice. Jim stares at the small device in his hand. Eleanor's voice is on this drive. Eleanor's final words to the woman who betrayed her. He is not ready to hear it yet. Instead, he opens this envelope. The letter inside is dated 1 week before Eleanor lost the ability to write coherently. My darling Jim, it begins, and his vision blurs. My darling Jim, if you are reading this, I have left you. I am so sorry. I fought as hard as I could, but the cancer was stronger. I need you to know something. Vanessa Cole was my best friend for 30 years. We shared everything. Dreams, fears, midnight conversations about the future. But somewhere along the way, she started resenting me. Not for anything I did, but for what she thought I had. She asked me to sell lake rights to the HOA. I refused. Not because I wanted to keep it from people, but because I was planning something bigger. A conservation area. Open to everyone. Not just wealthy HOA members. Truly public, accessible. Forever. I shared this dream with Vanessa. I thought she would understand. Instead, she got angry. She said I was patronizing her, playing Lady Bountiful with inherited wealth. She could not see that I wanted to honor my grandfather's legacy by making nature available to everyone. I'm afraid of what she will do after I am gone. She is in HOA leadership now. She has power, and she has 30 years of resentment. Please, my love, protect this lake, not because it is ours, but because it should belong to everyone. Finish what I started. Make it the community space I dreamed of. And Jim, forgive Vanessa. I know that is hard, but she is in so much pain. She has been in pain for decades. She needs to face what she has done, yes, but she also needs someone to show her grace. Be that person. For me. I love you. I have loved you since the moment you asked me to dance at that terrible graduate school mixer. I will love you forever, even when I am just water and light on this lake. Always yours, Eleanor. Jim reads the letter 3 times. Each time, certain phrases stand out. Forgive Vanessa, show her grace, be that person. Even dying, even knowing Vanessa would steal her legacy. Eleanor wanted him to forgive. I cannot do what she is asking, Jim says quietly. Emily puts her hand over his. You do not have to forgive. You just have to not hate. There is a difference. Is there? Mom thought so. They sit in silence for a long moment. Then Jim begins going through the documents in the lockbox. Original deed from 1968, transfer papers from 2010, survey maps, environmental impact studies, letters from Colorado Parks and Wildlife, expressing interest in the conservation easement, and at the bottom, a document dated March 15, 2018, 12 days before Eleanor died. It is a formal filing with Jefferson County. Updated property deed with specific language. Crystal Lake and all surrounding property within 200 feet is designated perpetual private conservation land. No sale, transfer, or commercial development permitted without express written consent of owner and approval of Colorado Parks and Wildlife. In the event of owner's death, property passes to designated heir with all conservation restrictions intact. Eleanor made it legally impossible for anyone to take this lake. She built a fortress of paperwork around it. Which means Vanessa's claim of purchase in 2017 is not just wrong. It is impossible. She forged documents, Jim says. Emily nods. That is what I thought too. Jim's phone rings. Harold Morrison, Eleanor's attorney. Jim called him yesterday, left a message. He answers. Mr. Morrison, thank you for calling back. Jim, I am glad you reached out. Morrison's voice is grave, measured. He sounds like he is in his late 60s. I have been expecting this call for over a year. You knew Vanessa would try something? Eleanor warned me. She said Vanessa would wait until you were too grief-stricken to fight back, then claim ownership somehow. We spent months building legal protections to prevent exactly that. I need to see everything you filed. Come to my office Monday morning, 9 a.m. I will have it all ready. Jim, there is something else you should know. Eleanor made a recording 2 weeks before she died. She was very clear-headed that day. She wanted her intentions documented in her own voice, just in case someone claimed she was not competent to make decisions. What did she say? That under no circumstances was Crystal Lake to be sold, transferred, or developed commercially. That her dream was a public conservation area. That anyone claiming otherwise was lying. Jim closes his eyes. Eleanor prepared for war she would not live to fight. She built him an arsenal. Monday at 9, he says. After Morrison hangs up, Jim looks at Emily. Your mother was brilliant. She was a lot of things, Emily says. But yeah, brilliant was one of them. Emily stays through the weekend. They sort documents, build timelines, map out Vanessa's escalating demands against Eleanor's increasing legal protections. The pattern is clear. The more Eleanor fortified her position, the more desperate Vanessa became. Sunday evening, Dorothy Patterson knocks on the door. I hope I am not intruding, she says, but I thought you should know. I have been talking to other homeowners, the ones who bought in 2016 and 2017. We were all told the same thing: lake access through HOA ownership, premium prices because of the amenity. How many? Jim asks. 47 of us, all widows or widowers, all sold houses by Linda Westbrook, all vulnerable. Jim's jaw tightens. They targeted grieving people, people too tired from loss to ask hard questions. Dorothy, would you be willing to testify to that, if it comes to court? Absolutely. We were defrauded, Mr. Thornton. I want my money back. More than that, I want them held accountable. After Dorothy leaves, Emily says, Dad, this is bigger than property rights. This is systematic fraud. I know. What are you going to do? Jim looks out at the lake. The water is dark now, reflecting the last light of sunset. Somewhere out there, Eleanor is listening. I'm going to do what she asked, he says. Protect the lake, finish her dream, and make sure everyone who lied faces the truth. Monday morning, Jim drives to Harold Morrison's office in Boulder. The law firm occupies the third floor of a historic building downtown. Morrison meets him in the lobby personally. He is exactly as Jim imagined. Silver hair, tailored suit, the bearing of a man who has spent 40 years in courtrooms. Jim, Morrison says, shaking his hand. Come in, we have a lot to discuss. Morrison's office is lined with law books and photographs. One frame catches Jim's attention. Eleanor and Morrison at some charity event. Both younger, both smiling. We work together on several conservation projects, Morrison explains. Your wife cared deeply about environmental protection. She was not just my client. She was my friend. He opens a file cabinet and pulls out a thick folder. Everything Eleanor filed regarding Crystal Lake, starting with the 2010 inheritance and ending with the final protections filed March 2018. Jim goes through the documents methodically. Engineers mind cataloging, cross-referencing, building a complete picture. The timeline is ironclad. Eleanor inherited the lake in 2010, updated the deed in 2012, filed environmental assessments in 2015, established conservation framework in 2016, and in March 2018, locked it down completely with language that makes any sale legally impossible without state approval. If Vanessa claims the HOA purchased rights in 2017, Jim says, she would need Eleanor's signature on transfer documents, notarized, witnessed, filed with the county. Correct, Morrison says. Do we know if such documents exist? They exist. I pulled them from county records this morning. Morrison slides another folder across the desk. HOA filed a deed transfer in December 2017, signed by Eleanor Whitmore Thornton, notarized by Patricia Hensley, Colorado Notary Public, license number 84729. Jim opens the folder. The documents look official, professional, complete, except for one problem. Eleanor was in the hospital November 28th through December 9th, 2017. Jim says, emergency surgery, complications. She was sedated most of that time. I know, Morrison says. I visited her. She could barely speak. Jim looks at the signature on the transfer document. Dated December 3rd, 2017. The day Eleanor was intubated in ICU. She could not have signed this. No, she could not have. And the notary? Morrison opens his laptop, pulls up the Colorado Secretary of State website. He searches for notary license 84729. No results found. He searches for Patricia Hensley. No results found. The notary does not exist, Morrison says. Someone invented her. Jim sits back. The pieces are falling into place. Vanessa could not get Eleanor to sell, so she waited until Eleanor was too sick to fight. Then she forged transfer documents, created a fake notary, and filed them with the county. Simple, effective, completely illegal. Can we prove the signature is forged? Jim asks. I already had it analyzed. Morrison pulls out another document. Forensic handwriting comparison. Eleanor's signature from her will, her medical directives, and other legal documents, compared against the signature on the HOA transfer. Jim reads the conclusion. The signatures do not match. Different pressure points, different letter formations, different pen angle. The transfer signature is a forgery. This is fraud, Jim says. This is multiple felonies, Morrison corrects. Forgery, falsifying notary credentials, filing false documents with the county, possibly wire fraud if any electronic transfers were involved. We are looking at state and potentially federal charges. Jim thinks about Vanessa at the community meeting. The ice in her eyes, the certainty in her voice. She built this entire scheme on lies and thought she could maintain it through sheer force of will. What do we do? Jim asks. We file a quiet title action, force the HOA to prove their ownership in court. When they produce the forged documents, we destroy their case. Then we file criminal referral with the DA. How long will this take? 6 months to a year, maybe longer if they fight. Jim looks at Morrison. They are already building. Construction started last week. By the time we get a court date, they will have finished the pavilion. Morrison leans forward. Then we file for emergency injunction. Stop construction immediately while the ownership dispute is resolved. Can we do that? We can try, but Jim, you need to understand. Once we file, this goes nuclear. The HOA will fight with everything they have. Your neighbors will take sides. It will get ugly. It is already ugly, Jim says. They are building on my wife's grave. Morrison nods slowly. Then let's stop them. They spend 3 hours drafting the filing. Quiet title action. Emergency injunction. Demand for forensic audit of all HOA documents related to the lake. By the time Jim leaves Morrison's office, the sun is setting and he has a 147-page legal complaint in his briefcase. Morrison will file it Wednesday morning, which gives Jim 2 days to prepare for the storm that is coming. Tuesday. Jim drives around Pine Ridge, really looking this time, seeing the neighborhood the way Eleanor must have seen it in her final months, watching it transform from quiet lakeside community into HOA-controlled subdivision. The houses are nice, upper middle class, well-maintained, but there is something sterile about it, something controlled. Every lawn exactly the same length, every mailbox regulation black, every tree trimmed to HOA specifications. Eleanor would have hated this. She loved wild gardens, native plants, natural beauty. She would have seen this manicured perfection as a cage. Jim parks at the construction site. The pavilion foundation is being poured today. Concrete trucks line the road. Workers in hard hats move with practiced efficiency. It is a well-run operation. Professional, expensive, and completely illegal. A woman approaches him, mid-30s, maybe 40. She has 2 kids in tow, both under 10. You are Mr. Thornton, she says. It is not a question. Yes. I am Sarah Chen. I live 3 houses down. I knew your wife. Jim turns, gives her his full attention. You did? She tutored my daughter. Lily has dyslexia. The school was not helping. Your wife spent 2 hours every Saturday for a year teaching her reading strategies. For free. She never asked for anything in return. Jim feels the familiar ache. Eleanor never mentioned this. She just quietly helped people because that is who she was. She was a good person, Sarah says. The best person I have known. And what Vanessa is doing, building on her memory like this, it is wrong. I am stopping it, Jim says. Sarah nods. Good. If you need anything, engineering analysis, structural assessments, whatever, I am a civil engineer. I will help however I can. After Sarah leaves, Jim continues walking the property line. taking measurements, photographing every sign, every structure, every inch of construction on his land. He is so focused on documenting the pavilion foundation that he does not hear the car pull up behind him until a voice speaks. "I wondered when you would come inspect your property." Jim turns. Vanessa stands there, arms crossed, expression unreadable. They have not been alone together since Eleanor's funeral. Jim remembers that day. Vanessa in the back row, dark glasses hiding her eyes. She sent an enormous floral arrangement, white lilies, Eleanor's favorite. The card said simply, "I am sorry. No signature needed." Jim thought the apology was for Eleanor's death. Now he wonders if it was for what Vanessa was planning to do after. "This is my land," Jim says evenly. "So you keep saying." "Because it is true." Vanessa steps closer. She looks tired, older than her 55 years. "Jim, I know you are grieving. I know you want to hold on to Eleanor any way you can. But she made a decision. She sold the rights. It is done." She was in ICU when those documents were supposedly signed. Vanessa's expression does not change. The date on the filing was December. The actual agreement was made earlier, November. She was in surgery November 28th through December 9th. "Earlier in November. Prove it," Jim says. "Show me dated correspondence. Show me preliminary agreements. Show me anything that proves Eleanor willingly entered into this sale." Vanessa is quiet for a long moment. Then she says something that surprises him. "She never forgave me, you know, for the way our friendship ended." Jim does not respond. "I envied her," Vanessa continues. "For 30 years I envied her. She had everything I wanted, a husband who adored her, financial security. This beautiful lake. She did not even have to work for it. She just existed, gracefully, effortlessly, while I fought for every scrap I had." "That is not Eleanor's fault," Jim says. "I know, but it did not stop me from resenting her." Vanessa looks at the lake. "When she got sick, I thought I felt relieved. Finally, she would understand suffering. Finally, we would be equal." Jim's hands curl into fists. "But even dying, she was graceful," Vanessa says softly. "She forgave me for things I never apologized for, held my hand in hospice and said she understood, that she did not blame me, that she hoped I found peace." Vanessa's voice breaks slightly. "And all I could think was, how dare she forgive me? How dare she be generous when I wanted her to hurt the way I hurt?" Jim stares at her. "You are telling me this why?" "Because you need to understand, this is not about the lake. This was never about the lake. This is about me taking something from someone who had everything I did not. This is about making Eleanor's perfect life a little less perfect, even after she was gone." "You are admitting you forged the documents." Vanessa meets his eyes. "I am admitting I could not stand watching her win, even in death." Then she turns and walks back to her car. Before getting in, she says one more thing. "File your lawsuit, Jim. Do what you need to do. But understand, I am not the only one who wanted this lake. The whole HOA board approved the purchase. Linda Westbrook brokered the deal. The construction company has contracts. You are not fighting me. You are fighting everyone." She drives away, leaving Jim standing in the construction site, trying to process what just happened. Did Vanessa just confess? Or was she simply being honest about her motivations while maintaining the legal fiction that the sale was legitimate? Jim does not know. But he knows one thing. Eleanor was right. Vanessa is in pain. Deep, corrosive pain that has poisoned 30 years of her life. And Eleanor wanted him to show grace to that pain. Jim walks back to his truck, calls Emily. "Morrison is filing Wednesday," he says. "Emergency injunction. This is really happening." "How do you feel?" Emily asks. "Like I'm about to start a war." "You are," Emily says. "But it is the right war. Mom knew that. She prepared you for this." That night, Jim cannot sleep. He keeps thinking about Vanessa's words. "I could not stand watching her win." There was no winning. There was just Eleanor living her life, being kind, helping people, loving without reservation. But to someone consumed by envy, kindness looks like condescension. Generosity looks like showing off. Love looks like rubbing it in. Vanessa could not see Eleanor clearly because her own pain distorted everything. And now that pain is destroying a community, defrauding elderly widows, stealing a dying woman's final gift to the world. Jim opens Eleanor's journal one more time, reads the last entry again. December 1st, 2017. "I feel like I have lost my best friend, and I do not even understand why. Eleanor died 3 months later without ever understanding what drove Vanessa away." But Jim understands now. And understanding does not make it easier. It makes it worse. Wednesday morning arrives. Morrison files the lawsuit at 8:47 a.m. By 9:15, news has spread through Pine Ridge. Jim's phone starts ringing. Neighbors demanding explanations. HOA board members threatening countersuits. Linda Westbrook claiming she will be ruined. Jim ignores all of it. Sits on the dock where Eleanor used to sit. Watches the water. At 10:30, Emily calls. Dad, turn on your phone. Check the neighborhood Facebook group. Jim reluctantly opens the app. The Pine Ridge Neighbors group has exploded. Over 300 comments in 2 hours. Linda Westbrook posted, "Greedy widower trying to steal community amenity. Wants to keep lake private while we all paid premium prices. This is theft." The comments are brutal, selfish, entitled, ruining our property values. Call the police. But then Jim sees other comments. Different voices. Dorothy Patterson. I paid $85,000 extra for lake access. If the HOA does not own it, I was defrauded. Mr. Thornton is not the thief here. Sarah Chen. The pavilion construction plans are structurally unsound. Built over underground spring. It will collapse. Mr. Thornton is protecting us, not attacking us. A grief counselor named Margaret Osei. I knew Eleanor Thornton. She wanted this lake protected and made public. Her husband is honoring her wishes. Show some respect. The community is fracturing. Half supporting Jim, half supporting the HOA. Families choosing sides. Friendships ending. This is what Vanessa meant. You are fighting everyone. But Jim is not fighting everyone. He is fighting lies. And lies have a way of unraveling when confronted with truth. At 2 p.m., Jim receives an email from the county clerk's office. Subject, public records request fulfilled. He opens the attachment. It is a complete history of all filings related to Crystal Lake. Every deed, every transfer, every update since 1968. Jim goes through it methodically. And there, buried in the timeline, is something Morrison missed. The HOA transfer document filed December 2017 was accompanied by a supporting document, a letter from Eleanor's physician stating she was competent to make legal decisions at the time of signing. The letter is dated December 1st, 2017, signed by Dr. Michael Foster, Eleanor's oncologist. Jim calls Dr. Foster's office. The receptionist puts him through immediately. Dr. Foster, this is Jim Thornton, Eleanor Thornton's husband. Jim, I am so sorry for your loss. Eleanor was a wonderful patient. Doctor, I need to ask you about a letter you supposedly wrote in December 2017, stating Eleanor was competent to sign legal documents. Silence on the line, then, I never wrote such a letter. You are certain? Absolutely certain. Eleanor was in ICU that entire week. I would never have cleared her for legal signatures. She could barely communicate. Would you be willing to testify to that? If needed, yes. Jim, what is this about? Someone forged your signature, used it to claim Eleanor sold property she would never have sold. Another silence. Then Dr. Foster says something that changes everything. I am not surprised. There was a woman who visited Eleanor repeatedly during her final weeks. She asked me several times about Eleanor's mental state, whether she was competent to make decisions. I told her Eleanor's cognition was declining. The woman seemed pleased by that. I found it disturbing. Do you remember her name? Vanessa something. Cole, I think, said she was Eleanor's oldest friend. Jim hangs up and immediately calls Morrison. They forged a doctor's letter, he says. Dr. Foster never cleared Eleanor for legal signing. He will testify. That is another felony, Morrison says. Jim, this is not just civil fraud anymore. This is organized, premeditated, multi-party criminal conspiracy. What do? We contact the DA. This goes beyond property dispute. This is elder exploitation, document forgery, medical fraud. The state will want to prosecute. Jim looks out at the lake. The water is choppy today, stirred by wind. Eleanor loved days like this, said the lake was most beautiful when it was restless. Do it, Jim says. Contact the DA. File everything. I want Vanessa and everyone who helped her to face what they did. Jim, are you sure? Once we involve criminal prosecution, there is no going back. Vanessa could go to prison. Jim thinks about Eleanor's letter. Forgive her. Show her grace. But grace does not mean no consequences. Grace means honest consequences. Truth-telling. Facing what was done. Eleanor asked me to set Vanessa free, Jim says. The truth will do that, even if Vanessa does not want it. Morrison is quiet for a moment. Then, I will make the calls. Criminal referral goes to the DA tomorrow. That evening, Jim sits on the porch with a beer. First alcohol he has had since Eleanor died. It tastes like memories, summer barbecues, celebration toasts, anniversary dinners. Emily calls at 8 p.m. Dad, I did something. I hope you are okay with it. What did you do? I made a video, posted it to the neighborhood group, told them about Mom, about the forgeries, about Vanessa being at her deathbed. Jim's stomach drops. Emily, I know, but they need to know the truth. They are calling you selfish. They need to understand what really happened. Jim opens Facebook. Emily's video has 3,000 views already. She sits in her living room, 8 months pregnant, tears streaming down her face, and tells the world what Vanessa Cole did. My mother was dying. Vanessa Cole visited her in hospice, held her hand, said they were like sisters. 1 month later, she forged my mother's signature, created fake documents, stole property my mother wanted to protect, and now she is building a pavilion on the spot where we scattered my mother's ashes. Is this the community you want to be? Is this who we are? The comments are pouring in. Shock, outrage, disgust, but also doubt. People saying Emily is lying, saying grief makes people irrational, saying the Thorntons are trying to steal what was legally purchased. The fracture is widening. Pine Ridge is tearing itself apart. Jim calls Emily back. You did not have to do that. Yes, I did. Mom can't fight for herself anymore. Someone has to tell her story. This is going to get worse before it gets better. I know, Dad, but worse means people are finally paying attention. Worse means we are winning. Jim is not sure winning is the right word, but he knows they are moving forward, one painful step at a time. Thursday morning, Morrison calls with news. Emergency injunction hearing is scheduled for Monday. Judge Rebecca Hammond. She is fair but tough. We need to be ready. What do we need? Every document, every witness, everything that proves Eleanor never agreed to sell. Jim, this is it. This is where we stop them or lose everything. Jim spends the next 4 days preparing. Dorothy organizes the defrauded homeowners. 47 people willing to testify they were lied to. Sarah Chen provides structural analysis of the pavilion, shows it will fail within 2 years, potentially killing dozens of people. Dr. Foster provides sworn affidavit. Eleanor was not competent to sign documents in December 2017. Any letter claiming otherwise is fraudulent. The forensic handwriting analyst provides detailed report. The signature on HOA documents does not match Eleanor's actual signature. Probability of forgery, 99.7%. By Sunday night, they have a case. Strong, comprehensive, damning. Jim sits at Eleanor's desk, surrounded by evidence of her final battle. She built this arsenal knowing she would not live to use it. She trusted him to pick up the weapons she forged and finish the fight. He will not let her down. Monday morning, Jim puts on his best suit, the one he wore to Eleanor's funeral, drives to Boulder County Courthouse. Morrison meets him on the steps. Ready? Morrison asks. Jim looks up at the building, justice carved in stone above the entrance. Eleanor believed in justice, believed truth mattered, believed the arc of the moral universe bent toward righteousness if good people pushed hard enough. Ready? Jim says. They walk inside together, toward truth, toward justice, toward Eleanor's dream. The fight is just beginning. The courtroom smells like old wood and nervous sweat. Jim sits at the plaintiff's table, Morrison to his right, Emily to his left. Her pregnancy makes sitting uncomfortable. She shifts every few minutes, one hand always on her belly. Jim wants to tell her she does not need to be here, but he knows she will not leave. Eleanor's daughter is as stubborn as Eleanor was. Judge Rebecca Hammond enters at exactly 9 a.m. Everyone stands. She is in her early 60s, gray hair pulled back severely, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. Her expression suggests she has heard every lie, seen every scheme, and has no patience for either. Be seated, she says. Her voice carries authority without volume. We are here for emergency injunction in the matter of Thornton versus Pine Ridge HOA. Counsel, keep it brief. I have read your filings. I want to hear from witnesses. Morrison stands. Your Honor, we call Dorothy Patterson. Dorothy makes her way to the witness stand slowly. 76 years old, using a cane, but her eyes are sharp. She is sworn in and settles into the chair with the careful movement of someone whose bones ache. Morrison begins gently. Mrs. Patterson, when did you purchase your home in Pine Ridge? May 2016, 3 months after my husband died. Can you tell the court about the lake access? Dorothy's voice is steady. The real estate agent, Linda Westbrook, said lake access was included in the purchase. She showed me the HOA bylaws, said the lake was community property managed by the association. That was a major reason I bought the house. I paid $475,000. Comparable homes without lake access were selling for $390,000. So you paid an $85,000 premium for the lake amenity? Yes. Did Mrs. Westbrook show you documentation proving the HOA owned the lake? She showed me HOA bylaws listing it as a managed asset. I assumed it was legitimate. Morrison walks to his table, picks up a document. Your Honor, this is the deed to Crystal Lake, showing Eleanor Thornton as owner from 2010 until her death in 2018, filed with Jefferson County. No transfer of ownership to the HOA exists in county records. He hands it to the clerk, then turns back to Dorothy. Mrs. Patterson, if you had known the HOA did not actually own the lake, would you have paid the premium? Absolutely not. I was a widow on a fixed income. Every dollar mattered. Her voice wavers slightly. I feel foolish, like I was easy prey because I was grieving. You were not foolish, Morrison says quietly. You were lied to. No further questions. The HOA attorney stands. Gerald Finch, early 40s, expensive suit, practiced smile. Mrs. Patterson, you say you were shown HOA bylaws. Did those bylaws not clearly state the lake was an HOA amenity? They did. And you relied on that representation when making your purchase? Yes. So your dispute is not with Mr. Thornton, but with the HOA and the real estate agent who sold you the property, correct? Dorothy pauses. Jim can see her working through the trap. If she says yes, she admits Jim is not the problem. If she says no, she looks unreasonable. My dispute, Dorothy says carefully, is with anyone who lied about lake ownership, whether that is the HOA, the real estate agent, or both. But you are not claiming Mr. Thornton defrauded you. Of course not. He is the victim here too. Finch smiles. Then we agree. Mr. Thornton is not being harmed by the HOA's use of the lake. He is simply a property owner whose land abuts community amenity space. Next witness, Your Honor. Morrison's jaw tightens, but he does not object. Judge Hammond is already looking at the next name on the witness list. The plaintiff calls Dr. Michael Foster. Dr. Foster is exactly what central casting would send for a respected oncologist. Mid-50s, graying at the temples, wire-rimmed glasses. The bearing of someone who has delivered bad news 10,000 times and still feels every one. After he is sworn in, Morrison asks, Dr. Foster, you were Eleanor Thornton's oncologist? I was. From her diagnosis in March 2017 until her death in March 2018. Can you describe her condition in late November, early December 2017? Dr. Foster's expression is somber. Mrs. Thornton was admitted to ICU on November 28, 2017 for emergency surgery. The cancer had caused intestinal blockage. Post-operative complications included sepsis and respiratory failure. She was on a ventilator from November 30th through December 7th. During that time, was she capable of making legal decisions? Absolutely not. She was sedated, intubated, barely conscious. Any attempt to have her sign legal documents would have been medically inappropriate and likely impossible. Morrison produces another document. Your Honor, this is a letter dated December 1st, 2017, purportedly signed by Dr. Foster, stating that Eleanor Thornton was mentally competent to execute legal documents. He hands it to the clerk, then turns to the witness. Dr. Foster, did you write this letter? No. I have never seen this document before Mr. Morrison showed it to me last week. The courtroom goes very quiet. That is your signature at the bottom? Morrison asks. It appears to be, but I did not sign this letter. Someone forged my name. You are certain? I am absolutely certain. I would never have cleared Mrs. Thornton for legal signing while she was in ICU on a ventilator. It would have been malpractice. Do you remember anyone asking about Mrs. Thornton's mental competency during this time? Dr. Foster hesitates. There was a woman, visited Mrs. Thornton several times in hospice. She asked me repeatedly whether Mrs. Thornton was capable of making decisions. I found the questions odd. She seemed more interested in Mrs. Thornton's incompetence than her well-being. Do you remember this woman's name? Vanessa Cole. She said she was Mrs. Thornton's oldest friend. Every head in the courtroom turns toward the defense table. Vanessa sits very still, face pale, hands folded in front of her. Morrison lets the silence stretch. Then, no further questions. Gerald Finch stands for cross-examination. Dr. Foster, you said Mrs. Thornton was on a ventilator December 1st through 7th. What about before November 30th? She was in surgery and immediate post-operative care. But conscious? Briefly heavily medicated. Could she have signed documents on November 28th or 29th before the ventilator? Theoretically. But she was in extreme pain, on morphine, and about to go into emergency surgery. I would not have considered her capable of informed consent for legal matters. But you did not write a letter saying she was incapable, did you? I was not asked to. So, while you did not write the letter in question, you also did not formally document her incapacity. Dr. Foster's jaw tightens. My medical notes document her condition thoroughly. Anyone reading them would know she was not capable of legal decision-making. But you did not explicitly state it. No. Finch smiles. No further questions. He is trying to create reasonable doubt, suggesting that while the letter might be questionable, Eleanor could have signed documents before her condition deteriorated. Judge Hammond makes a note, then looks at Morrison. Next witness. The plaintiff calls Margaret Osei. Jim turns, surprised. Margaret is the grief counselor Dorothy mentioned. He has never met her. Did not know she was on the witness list. Margaret is in her late 50s, black woman with kind eyes, and the calm presence of someone who has sat with pain professionally for decades. She is sworn in and takes her seat. Ms. Osei, how did you know Eleanor Thornton? Morrison asks. She came to me for grief counseling in 2015, about 2 years before her cancer diagnosis. What was she grieving? A friendship. She did not use names initially, but eventually shared that her college roommate, her best friend for 30 years, had become bitter and resentful. Eleanor blamed herself. Kept asking what she had done wrong. What did you tell her? Margaret speaks directly to the judge. I told her that sometimes people's pain has nothing to do with you, that you cannot fix someone who does not want healing. But Eleanor kept trying. She was one of those people who believed love could overcome anything. Did she mention this friend by name? Eventually, Vanessa Cole. Morrison walks to the defense table. Is that woman in this courtroom? Margaret looks at Vanessa. Their eyes meet. Vanessa looks away first. Yes, Margaret says. What else did Eleanor tell you about Vanessa? That Vanessa was pressuring her to sell lake access rights to the HOA. That Vanessa was using her position on the board to harass her. Code violations, legal threats. Eleanor was frightened. Not of Vanessa physically, but of what Vanessa had become. She said it was like watching someone she loved disappear into bitterness. Morrison pauses. Did Eleanor ever say she was considering selling the lake rights? Never. She was adamant. The lake was meant to be protected and shared, not sold to the highest bidder. She was planning a conservation easement, public access. She was excited about it. Did she discuss this plan with Vanessa? She tried. Vanessa got angry, called it performative charity, said Eleanor was playing Lady Bountiful with inherited wealth. Margaret's voice softens. Eleanor cried in my office that day. She said, I just want to do something good. Why does she think the worst of me? Jim closes his eyes. He can hear Eleanor's voice in Margaret's words, can see her sitting in that counselor's office, trying to understand why her best friend hated her. No further questions, Morrison says quietly. Finch does not cross-examine. What could he ask? The testimony is devastating and he knows it. Judge Hammond looks at the witness list. Mr. Morrison, you have one more witness listed, the plaintiff himself. Morrison nods. Your Honor, we call James Thornton. Jim stands, walks to the witness stand on legs that feel disconnected from his body. He is sworn in, sits, looks out at the courtroom. Emily in the front row, one hand on her belly, tears on her cheeks. Dorothy beside her, dignified and fierce. Sarah Chen, the engineer, taking notes. Other faces he recognizes from the neighborhood, some sympathetic, some hostile. And Vanessa, sitting very still at the defense table, not looking at him. Mr. Thornton, Morrison begins. Tell us about the lake. Jim takes a breath. It is where I proposed to my wife, on the dock. Sunset in July. She said yes before I even finished asking. His voice is steady. Engineer steady. The tone he used in project presentations, when he needed to sound confident, even when the structure was at risk of failure. It is where we told our daughter she was going to be a big sister. Where Eleanor taught Emily to fish, to swim, to identify birds by their calls. It is where we celebrated 25 anniversaries, where we sat every evening, holding hands, watching the sunset, where Eleanor told me she had cancer, where she told me she was dying. His voice cracks slightly on the last word. He pauses, breathes, continues. It is where I scattered her ashes. the exact spot where the HOA is building a pavilion foundation. They are pouring concrete over my wife's grave. The courtroom is silent. Taking the lake is not theft of property, Your Honor. It is theft of every memory I have of the only woman I ever loved. It is taking the place where I still feel her, where I go to remember what it was like to be loved that completely. He looks directly at Judge Hammond. My wife wanted this lake protected. She wanted it shared with everyone, not controlled by the wealthy. She spent her final months building legal protections to make that happen. And someone forged her signature, invented a notary, fabricated medical clearance, and stole her dying wish. Morrison lets the silence hold. Then, what would Eleanor want us to do now? Jim thinks about her letter. Forgive Vanessa. Show grace. She would want the truth, Jim says. She would want everyone to face what they did. Not because she was vindictive, but because she believed truth sets people free, even when it hurts. He looks at Vanessa for the first time. Especially when it hurts. Morrison nods. No further questions. Finch stands for cross-examination. Mr. Thornton, you claim the lake is where you scattered your wife's ashes. Do you have documentation of that? No, it was a private ceremony. So we only have your word that the construction site is significant? Jim's hands curl into fists. Yes. And you claim your wife would never have sold lake rights. But you also testified she did not tell you she was sick for 2 months, that she kept secrets when she thought it was necessary. She did not keep secrets, she protected people. Is there a difference? Yes. How do you know she did not protect you from the decision to sell the lake? Kept it from you because she knew you would object? Jim leans forward. Because I knew my wife. She would never sell something she planned to make public. It makes no logical sense. Grief can cloud judgment, Mr. Thornton. Are you certain your grief is not making you see malice, where there was simply a business transaction you were not aware of? I am certain, Jim says coldly, that someone forged my wife's signature while she was dying, and you are helping them cover it up. Judge Hammond's gavel comes down once, sharp. Mr. Thornton, answer only the questions asked. Mr. Finch, I have heard enough. Step back. Finch sits down. Jim is excused. As he walks back to his table, he catches Vanessa's eye again. She is crying, silently, tears running down her face. She makes no move to wipe them away. Judge Hammond removes her glasses, rubs her eyes. When she speaks, her voice is weary. I have presided over property disputes for 23 years. Most involve simple miscommunication or honest mistakes. This is not one of those cases. She looks at the HOA table. Counselor Finch, your client claims to have purchased lake rights from Mrs. Eleanor Thornton in 2017. The document supporting this claim bears a signature that forensic analysis suggests is forged. It includes notarization by a person who does not exist in state records. It references medical clearance from a doctor who never wrote such clearance, and states the patient was incapacitated at the time. She pauses. This is not a civil property dispute. This is fraud, potentially criminal fraud involving forgery, falsification of medical documents, and elder exploitation. Finch stands. Your Honor, these are serious allegations that have not been proven beyond reasonable doubt. This is not a criminal trial, Counselor. I do not need proof beyond reasonable doubt. I need preponderance of evidence, and the evidence preponderates heavily toward fraud. She puts her glasses back on. I am granting the emergency injunction. All construction on the lake property ceases immediately. The HOA is enjoined from claiming ownership or management authority over Crystal Lake pending full trial. I am also ordering the HOA to post a $500,000 bond to cover potential damages. Vanessa's attorney starts to object, but Judge Hammond raises a hand. I am not finished. I am referring this matter to the district attorney for criminal investigation. Forgery, falsifying notary credentials, fabricating medical clearance. These are felonies. The state will determine whether charges are appropriate. She looks at Jim. Mr. Thornton, I cannot return your wife to you. I cannot undo the pain of building on her resting place, but I can stop further desecration. The injunction is effective immediately. The gavel comes down. The courtroom erupts, reporters rushing out to file stories, HOA board members arguing among themselves, Dorothy hugging Emily, Sarah Chen pumping her fist, and Vanessa sitting very still, staring at nothing. Jim does not move. He should feel victorious, should feel relief. Instead, he feels empty. Because stopping the construction does not bring Eleanor back. Winning in court does not fill the silence in the lake house. Justice does not heal grief. Morrison grips his shoulder. We won, Jim. This is what Eleanor wanted. Part of what she wanted, Jim says. She also wanted me to forgive Vanessa. Morrison follows his gaze to the defense table. Some things are not yours to forgive. Some things require justice first. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarm. Jim ignores them, walks to his truck, sits behind the wheel, does not start the engine. His phone buzzes. Text from Emily. "We did it, Dad. Mom would be proud." Another text from Dorothy. "Construction crew is packing up. They stopped work. The lake is safe." Another from Sarah Chen. "Judge Hammond is a hero. Truth won." But Jim does not feel like truth won. He feels like truth exposed everything, and now everyone is bleeding. He drives back to Pine Ridge slowly. When he arrives, the construction site is indeed abandoned. Equipment sitting idle, workers gone, yellow caution tape everywhere. The foundation is half poured, concrete hardening into a monument to greed and grief. It will have to be jackhammered out, removed, the ground restored. Jim walks to the exact spot where he scattered Eleanor's ashes. The concrete has not reached here yet. The wildflowers are gone, bulldozed weeks ago, but the soil is still intact. He kneels, touches the earth, speaks to his wife. "I stopped them, Eleanor. I did what you asked. I protected the lake." The wind moves through the trees. It sounds like her voice. Almost. "But I do not know how to forgive her. I am trying. I swear I am trying. But every time I think about what she did to you, what she took from you, I want to destroy her." Silence. Then carried on the wind, what might be words or might be hope. "Set her free." Jim sits there until the sun sets, until his knees ache and his back protests. Then he stands, brushes off dirt, and walks back to the truck. His phone rings, unknown number. He almost does not answer, then does. "Mr. Thornton?" A woman's voice, hesitant. "Yes." "This is Linda Westbrook. I need to talk to you, please. Not about the lawsuit. About Vanessa." Jim's first instinct is to hang up, but something in Linda's voice stops him. "What about Vanessa?" "I think you should know why she is the way she is. It does not excuse what she did, but it explains it." Linda takes a shaky breath. "Can we meet? Tomorrow? I have information you need to hear." Jim almost says no, almost tells her he does not care why Vanessa is broken. But Eleanor's voice is still in his head. "Set her free." "Where?" he asks. "The coffee shop on Main Street, 10 a.m. "I will be there." He hangs up, sits in the truck, wonders what fresh pain tomorrow will bring. That night, Jim dreams again. Eleanor on the dock in her blue sundress. But this time she is not alone. Vanessa stands beside her. Young Vanessa, college age. They have their arms around each other, laughing. Eleanor turns to Jim. "She was my sister before she was my enemy. Remember that." Jim wakes before dawn, makes coffee. 1 cup this time, sits on the porch and watches the lake turn from black to gray to gold as the sun rises. At 9:45, he drives to town. The coffee shop is nearly empty. Linda Westbrook sits in the back corner, hands wrapped around a cup she is not drinking. She looks terrible, eyes red, hair not styled, no makeup. Jim sits across from her, does not order coffee, just waits. "Thank you for coming," Linda says. "I know you hate me. I do not hate you. I do not know you well enough to hate you." "You should. I helped Vanessa defraud 47 people. I knew the lake ownership was questionable, and I sold houses anyway because the commission was good. Then why am I here?" Linda pulls out her phone, opens a photo, shows it to Jim. It is Vanessa, maybe 15 years younger, sitting in a hospital bed. She is crying. There is blood. Too much blood. 5 miscarriages, Linda says quietly. Over 12 years. This was the worst one. 22 weeks. They had named her Sophia. Jim feels something shift in his chest. Not sympathy exactly, not yet, but understanding beginning to crack through the anger. "Vanessa wanted children more than anything," Linda continues. "She and Thomas tried everything. Fertility treatments, adoption attempts. Nothing worked. And then in 2015, Emily announced her pregnancy." Jim closes his eyes. Emily. Who got pregnant easily? Who gave Eleanor a grandchild? Who gave Eleanor joy in her final months? "Vanessa smiled," Linda says. "Congratulated Eleanor. Went home and screamed into a pillow for an hour. I know because I was there. She was staying with me after another failed treatment." Linda scrolls to another photo. Vanessa and Eleanor, college age, arms around each other. They were best friends, real friends. Vanessa told me once that Eleanor was the only person who ever saw her. Really saw her, not her accomplishments or her failures, just her. What happened? Life happened. Vanessa married a man who cheated. Eleanor married a man who adored her. Vanessa fought for every dollar. Eleanor inherited money. Vanessa wanted children and got miscarriages. Eleanor got a grandchild. Linda looks up. I am not excusing what she did. Forging those documents was wrong, criminal. But you asked how someone could hate their best friend that much. Now you know. It was not hate. It was grief. Grief that Eleanor got everything Vanessa wanted. Grief that soured into envy. Envy that hardened into bitterness. Jim thinks about Eleanor's journal, Vanessa's escalating demands, the poison growing over years. She could have talked to Eleanor, Jim says. Eleanor would have helped. Would she, or would she have pitied her? Linda shakes her head. Vanessa did not want pity. She wanted what Eleanor had. When she could not have it, she decided to take the one thing Eleanor treasured. Not out of malice, out of pain. Jim sits back. He came here expecting more lies. Instead, he got truth. Complicated, ugly, human truth. Why are you telling me this? He asks. Because yesterday in court, I watched Vanessa break. Really break. For the first time in 20 years, I saw the woman she used to be. The one who laughed, who cared about people, who was not consumed by what she did not have. Linda's voice drops. And I thought, what if Jim Thornton could see that too? What if he understood she is not a monster? She is a woman who drowned in pain and pulled everyone down with her. You want me to drop the charges? No, she should face consequences. She committed crimes. But maybe after the legal stuff is done, you could give her a chance to be human again, to apologize for real, to try to make amends. Jim stands. I will think about it. He walks out into morning sunshine, gets in his truck, sits there processing. Vanessa tried to have children for 15 years and failed. Eleanor became a grandmother easily. From Vanessa's perspective, it must have felt like the universe rewarding Eleanor's perfection while punishing Vanessa's inadequacy. It does not excuse the forgery, does not make the theft acceptable, but it makes Vanessa human instead of monster. And Eleanor asked him to set her free. Maybe that means showing her grace after justice, showing her a path back to being human. Jim drives to Morrison's office. The lawyer is reviewing trial prep documents. Jim, what can I do for you? I want to meet with Vanessa, Jim says, before the criminal charges go forward. I want to hear from her. Not her lawyer, her. Morrison leans back. That is highly unusual and potentially problematic for the case. I do not care about the case. I care about keeping a promise to my wife. Morrison studies him for a long moment, then nods. I will set it up, but I will be there. And everything she says can be used in criminal proceedings. She needs to understand that. She will understand. 2 days later, Jim sits in Morrison's conference room. Vanessa across the table, her attorney beside her, Morrison beside Jim. Vanessa looks smaller somehow, diminished. The commanding presence from the HOA meeting is gone. What remains is a tired woman in her 50s who has lost everything. Thank you for agreeing to this, Jim says. Vanessa's voice is hoarse. Why did you want to meet? Because my wife asked me to forgive you. I am trying to understand how. Vanessa's eyes fill with tears. You should not forgive me. What I did was unforgivable. Then help me understand why you did it. Vanessa is quiet for a long time. Then she speaks. I spent 30 years watching Eleanor have everything I wanted. A good marriage, financial security, a child, a grandchild, this beautiful lake. And the worst part was not that she had those things. It was that she never seemed to appreciate them. She appreciated them, Jim says quietly. I know, but from the outside it looked effortless, like she floated through life while I clawed and fought and bled for every scrap I had. Vanessa wipes her eyes. When she got sick, I thought I would feel relief. Finally, we would be equal. Finally, she would understand suffering. And she was graceful even dying. She forgave me before I apologized, held my hand in hospice, and said she understood, that she did not blame me for resenting her. Vanessa's voice breaks. How do you forgive someone for hating you? How do you love someone who wants you to hurt? That was Eleanor, Jim says. She loved impossible people. I know. And I repaid that love by stealing her final gift, by forging documents, by building on her grave. Silence. Then Vanessa says, I deserve prison. I deserve to lose everything. But before that happens, I need you to know I loved her. For 30 years, I loved her, and my love turned poison. And I hate myself for that more than you could ever hate me. Jim looks at this broken woman across the table, sees not the thief who stole his wife's dream, sees the friend Eleanor mourned losing, the woman Eleanor wanted saved. What would you do differently? Jim asks. If you could go back, I would have talked to her. Really talked. Not about the lake, about the pain, about the miscarriages and the divorce and the jealousy. I would have let her help instead of punishing her for being able to help. And now? Now I face what I did. I plead guilty. I go to prison if that is what justice requires. And I spend the rest of my life trying to be the person Eleanor believed I could be. Jim stands, extends his hand across the table. Vanessa stares at it. What? Eleanor wanted me to set you free. The truth will do that, even if it hurts. Vanessa takes his hand, shakes it, holds it for just a moment longer than necessary. I am sorry, she whispers, for all of it, for every moment of pain I caused her, for stealing her dream, for making her final months harder. I am so sorry. I know, Jim says. Eleanor knew too. He leaves the conference room. Morrison follows him out. What just happened? Morrison asks. I kept a promise, Jim says. Now let justice do its work. That night, Jim sits on the dock. The water is calm, stars reflecting on the surface. He pulls out his phone, opens the Notes app, writes, Dear Eleanor, I met with Vanessa today. I understand now, not why she did it, but who she is. A woman drowning in pain who pulled you down with her. You asked me to forgive her. I am not there yet. But I am not drowning in hate anymore. So maybe that is a start. The lake is safe. Your dream will happen. The conservation area, public access, everything you wanted. I miss you. Every day, every moment. But I am learning to live with the missing instead of being destroyed by it. I love you always. Jim. He does not send it anywhere, just writes it, lets it exist. Then he closes the app and sits in the quiet. The water remembers, the dock remembers, the stars remember. And somewhere, in water and light and wind, Eleanor remembers too. Tomorrow, justice continues. The DA will file charges. Vanessa will face consequences. The community will heal or fracture further. But tonight, Jim Thornton sits by the lake his wife loved and feels something like peace. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. And for now, that is enough. The demolition crew arrives on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after the injunction. Jim stands watching as the excavator tears into the half-built pavilion foundation. Concrete cracks, rebar twists. The sound is violent and necessary. Sarah Chen stands beside him, clipboard in hand, documenting everything for the environmental impact report. She is meticulous. Every broken piece cataloged, every cubic yard of debris measured. The engineer in Jim appreciates the precision. Foundation went down 18 feet, Sarah says, making notes. Pilings damaged the underground spring system. We will need hydrological assessment before restoration. How long? 6 months minimum. Maybe a year if the aquifer is compromised. She looks at him. Your wife was right to fight this. If they had finished, the whole structure would have collapsed within 2 years. Could have killed dozens of people. Jim watches another section of concrete crumble under the excavator's claw. Thinks about all the wedding receptions, community gatherings, children's birthday parties that would have happened in that death trap. Eleanor saved lives she will never know about. The crew foreman approaches. Tom Ridgway, 58, weathered face, competent hands. The kind of man who has built things his whole life and takes pride in doing it right. Mr. Thornton, we have a problem. The foundation cracked the limestone shelf underneath. There is groundwater seepage. We need to stabilize it before we can restore the topsoil. What do you need? Geotechnical engineer, soil samples. Probably have to inject stabilizing compound into the bedrock. Tom shows him photos on his tablet. Water pooling in the excavation. Dark stains spreading through broken stone. Jim makes a decision. Do it. Whatever it takes to restore this land to what it was. Send me the invoices. Tom nods respect between men who understand that some work matters more than cost. Yes, sir. By noon, the pavilion is rubble. Trucks haul debris to the recycling facility. What cannot be recycled goes to the landfill. $2.4 million of construction reduced to 40 tons of broken concrete and twisted metal. Jim should feel satisfied. Instead, he feels tired. His phone rings. Morrison. Jim, the DA filed charges this morning. Vanessa Cole, Linda Westbrook, and Thomas Brennan. Multiple counts each. Forgery, fraud, and conspiracy, elder exploitation. When is arraignment? Friday. But there is something else. Vanessa fired her attorney. She is pleading guilty to everything. Jim stops walking. Everything? Every charge. No plea bargain, no reduced sentences. She told the DA she wants full accountability. Morrison pauses. Her statement says she committed fraud against a dying woman and 47 vulnerable homeowners. She is taking complete responsibility. Why would she do that? I think she is trying to find her way back to being human. This is the first step. After Morrison hangs up, Jim sits on a bench overlooking the lake, tries to process. Vanessa is facing 15 to 20 years in prison. She could fight, could claim she was misled, could shift blame to Thomas or Linda. Instead, she is admitting everything. Eleanor would say this is grace at work. The truth setting someone free even when freedom looks like a cage. Jim is not sure he believes in grace anymore, but he is starting to believe in change. That evening, Emily calls. Her voice is strained. Dad, I am in labor. Can you come? Jim is in the truck before she finishes the sentence. Denver is 4 hours away. He makes it in 3.5. The hospital is too bright and too loud and smells like antiseptic and fear. Emily's husband Mark meets him in the waiting room. Good man, steady, the kind of husband Eleanor would have approved of. She is asking for you, Mark says. Jim follows him to the delivery room. Emily is on the bed, face flushed, breathing through contractions. When she sees him, she reaches out her hand. You made it. Jim takes her hand, holds tight. Of course I made it. I want to name him Robert, after Grandpa, Mom's grandfather, the one who bought the lake. Jim's throat tightens. Eleanor would love that. Robert James, after both grandfathers. Emily, you do not have to. I want to. You and Grandpa Robert are the best men I have ever known. This baby should carry that legacy. 4 hours later, Robert James arrives. 7 pounds, 6 ounces. Full head of dark hair. Lungs that work perfectly. When the nurse places him in Jim's arms, the grief cracks open again. Not painful this time. Different. Like mourning and joy occupying the same space. Eleanor should be here. Should be holding her grandson. Should be crying happy tears and taking 1,000 photographs. But she is not here. And Jim has to be here for both of them. Hey there, Robert. He whispers to the tiny human in his arms. I am your grandfather. And I am going to tell you all about the woman who made all of this possible. Your great-grandmother Eleanor, who loved impossible people and believed in grace even when it hurt. Emily watches from the bed crying. She would be so proud of you, Dad. I am trying to be the man she thought I was. You already are. Jim stays in Denver for 3 days, helps Emily settle in at home, builds the crib Mark never got around to assembling, does laundry, makes meals. The practical tasks of being useful when words are insufficient. On the drive back to Pine Ridge, he calls Dorothy. How are things in the neighborhood? He asks. Dorothy sighs. Tense. Half the community is grateful you stopped the fraud. The other half thinks you destroyed their property values. There was a meeting last night. 70 people showed up. It got ugly. How ugly? Shouting, accusations. Someone threw a coffee cup. Tom Chen had to physically separate 2 men. Dorothy pauses. Jim, we need you to come to the next meeting. People need to hear from you directly. What would I even say? The truth. What Eleanor wanted. What you are planning for the lake. Give them something to believe in besides anger. Jim thinks about this. He has been so focused on stopping Vanessa, protecting the property, winning in court. He has not thought about what comes next, about actually building Eleanor's dream. When is the next meeting? He asks. Thursday, 7 p.m., Community Center. I will be there. Thursday arrives cold and gray. Jim puts on the suit he wore to court, drives to the community center. The parking lot is packed. He has to park 3 blocks away. Inside, over 100 people crowd the room. Every seat taken, people standing along the walls. The energy is electric and dangerous. Tom Chen is at the front, trying to maintain order. When he sees Jim, relief crosses his face. Everyone please, Mr. Thornton is here. Let him speak. Jim walks to the front, faces the crowd, sees Dorothy in the 3rd row, Sarah Chen beside her, Margaret Osei, the grief counselor, in the back. Other faces he recognizes from court, and many he does not. My name is James Thornton, he begins. Some of you know me, some of you think you know me. Let me tell you who I actually am. He takes a breath. I am a widower. My wife Eleanor died 18 months ago. The lake you have been fighting about, the property the HOA claimed to own, was her family's legacy. She inherited it from her grandfather, who bought it in 1968. Eleanor planned to make this lake a conservation area, public access, free fishing, nature education programs, a place where everyone, not just HOA members, could experience natural beauty. Someone in the back shouts, "So why did you try to keep it private?" I did not try to keep it private. I tried to stop people from stealing it. There is a difference. Jim pulls out papers. The deed, the conservation plan, Eleanor's handwritten notes. My wife spent her last months building legal framework to make this lake public. Vanessa Cole and others forged documents to claim ownership. They lied to you. They lied to 47 homeowners. They built on fraudulent claims. I stopped them. Not because I want the lake for myself, but because Eleanor's vision deserves to happen the right way, legally, honestly. He spreads Eleanor's conservation plan on the table. This is what she wanted: Colorado Parks and Wildlife managing the lake, free public access from dawn to dusk, accessible docks, walking trails, educational programs, no commercial development, no HOA control, just nature, preserved and shared. The room goes quiet. A man in his 60s stands. If you open the lake to the public, we lose our exclusive amenity. Our property values will drop. Jim looks at him steadily. You never had exclusive amenity. You were sold a lie. The question now is, do you want to keep fighting over something that never existed? Or do you want to be part of building something real? Tom Chen stands. I am a structural engineer. I analyzed the pavilion plans. That building would have collapsed. My children play by that lake. Mr. Thornton did not just protect his property. He protected our kids. Sarah Chen adds, Eleanor Thornton tutored my daughter for free, every Saturday for a year. She never asked for anything, just help because that is who she was. Her husband is honoring that legacy. We should help him. Dorothy rises slowly, using her cane. I am 76 years old. I was defrauded of $85,000. I could be angry at Mr. Thornton for exposing that fraud. Instead, I am grateful, because now I know the truth. And truth, even painful truth, is better than beautiful lies. Margaret Osei, the grief counselor, speaks from the back. I counseled Eleanor before she died. She wanted this lake to heal people, to bring community together, not divide it. We can honor her by choosing healing over blame. The meeting continues for 2 hours. Voices raised and lowered, arguments made and countered, but slowly, gradually, the energy shifts from anger to curiosity, from blame to possibility. By the end, Tom Chen calls for a vote, not binding, just a poll. Who supports moving forward with Eleanor's conservation plan? 83 hands go up, out of 112 people. Not unanimous, but a majority, a start. Afterward, people approach Jim, some to apologize, some to ask questions, some to offer help. A man in his 70s shakes his hand. I am Robert Chen, Tom's father, retired botanist. I would like to help with the native plant restoration. A woman in her 40s introduces herself as Ann Miller. I am a teacher. If you need help with educational programming, I volunteer. A young couple, maybe 30, offer to organize trail maintenance crews. By the time Jim leaves, he has a list of 27 volunteers, people willing to work on Eleanor's dream. He drives home feeling something he has not felt in months: hope. Friday morning, Vanessa's arraignment happens. Jim does not attend. Morrison sends him a text summary. Pled guilty to all charges. Sentencing in 60 days. Prosecution recommending 12 years. Judge will consider restitution and community service in final decision. Jim sits with this information. 12 years. Vanessa will be 67 when she gets out. Elderly. Broken. Starting over with nothing. Eleanor would not want this. She would want accountability, yes, but not destruction. Jim calls Morrison. Can we submit a victim impact statement before sentencing? Of course. What do you want to say? I'm still figuring that out. Over the next weeks, Jim throws himself into restoration work. The demolition is complete. The hydrological assessment confirms the spring system is damaged but repairable. Stabilization begins. He hires Tom Ridgway's crew to do the work, pays them fairly. watches them repair what greed destroyed. One afternoon, Sarah Chen brings him updated restoration plans. They are sitting on the porch reviewing elevations when a car pulls up. Vanessa gets out. Jim tenses. Sarah looks at him, questioning. "It is okay," Jim says quietly. Vanessa approaches slowly. She looks different, thinner, older, hair pulled back simply, no makeup, wearing jeans and a plain shirt, none of the polished armor she used to wear. "I am sorry to interrupt," she says. "I wanted to ask permission to do something." "What?" "Community service. The judge said I could start before sentencing. I want to work here, at the lake, whatever you need, trail maintenance, planting, cleanup, whatever helps restore what I destroyed." Sarah stands. "I will give you some privacy." After she leaves, Jim studies Vanessa, looking for manipulation, for angles, sees only exhaustion and something that might be sincerity. "Why?" he asks. "Because I need to do something right. For once in my life, I need to build instead of tear down." Vanessa's voice is steady. "I know you have no reason to trust me. I know I destroyed your wife's final months, but Eleanor forgave me even when I did not deserve it. Maybe I can earn a fraction of that grace by doing the work she wanted done." Jim thinks about Eleanor's letter. Set her free. Show her grace. "You will work under Sarah Chen's supervision," he says. "You do exactly what she tells you. You show up on time. You work harmless. You do not complain." "Yes, and if you use this as some PR stunt to reduce your sentence, you are done. This is about the lake, not about you." "I understand." Monday morning, 7 a.m., wear boots. Vanessa nods, turns to leave, then stops. "Thank you." "Do not thank me. Thank Eleanor. This is her grace, not mine." Monday morning, Vanessa shows up at 6:55 a.m. Work boots, gloves ready. Sarah gives her assignment. Removing invasive plants from the north meadow. Backbreaking work. Hot sun. No glory. Vanessa does it without complaint. Jim watches from a distance. Sees her pull weeds for 8 hours. Sees her hands blister. Sees her keep working anyway. At the end of the day, she thanks Sarah and leaves. No drama, no seeking attention, just work. She comes back Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. By the end of 2 weeks, she has cleared half the meadow, prepared soil for native wildflower restoration, worked harder than volunteers half her age. Tom Ridgway mentions it one afternoon. "That Cole woman, she really works. Not like someone trying to look good, like someone trying to fix something." Jim nods. Maybe she is. The restoration continues. Spring system repaired. Topsoil replaced. Native grasses seeded. Tom Chen's father consults on plant species selection. The meadow that was bulldozed begins to remember what it was. 6 weeks after arraignment, Jim receives notification. Vanessa sold her house, $390,000. The entire amount goes into escrow for restitution to defrauded homeowners. Dorothy calls him that evening. "I received a check, $85,000, full reimbursement, and a letter." "What did it say?" Dorothy reads it aloud. "Mrs. Patterson, no amount of money can undo what I did, but I can return what I stole. I am sorry for targeting you when you were vulnerable. I am sorry for using your grief as a weapon. I am trying to be better. I know that does not help you, but I needed you to know. Respectfully, Vanessa Cole." "What will you do with the money?" Jim asks. "I am donating half to the Lake Conservation Fund, Eleanor's legacy. The other half goes to a scholarship for students who lost parents, turning stolen money into something good." Jim finds himself smiling. Eleanor would love that. Over the following weeks, all 47 defrauded homeowners receive restitution. Full amounts, no conditions. Vanessa empties her retirement accounts, sells her car, moves into a small apartment, strips herself down to nothing to make things right. Linda Westbrook follows suit, sells her house, pays back the commissions she earned on fraudulent sales, declares bankruptcy, moves out of state. Thomas Brennan serves 6 months in minimum security, pays his portion of restitution, closes his construction company. The consequences are real. Lives are dismantled. But restitution happens. 8 weeks after arraignment, Jim sits down to write his victim impact statement. He types and deletes, trying to balance Eleanor's grace with his own anger. Finally, he writes what is true. "Your Honor, I am James Thornton. Vanessa Cole stole my wife's dying wish. She forged documents, created false records, and built on my wife's grave. The crime is clear. The harm is real. But my wife Eleanor asked me to forgive Vanessa, to see her pain, to show grace even when it was not deserved. I have watched Vanessa work at the lake for 8 weeks. I have seen her restore what she destroyed. I have watched her face what she did without excuses. I believe in consequences. Vanessa should face the legal penalty for her crimes, but I also believe in redemption, in the possibility that people can change. I do not ask for leniency. I ask for wisdom. Whatever sentence you impose, I hope it includes the opportunity for Vanessa to continue restoration work. Not for her benefit, but for the lakes, for the communities, for Eleanor's dream. My wife believed everyone deserves a second chance. I am trying to believe that too. Respectfully, James Thornton. He sends it to Morrison, then sits back and waits for sentencing. 2 weeks later, the day arrives. Jim attends this time, sits in the courtroom with Emily, Dorothy, Sarah Chen, watches Vanessa stand before Judge Hammond. The judge reads the charges, reads the victim statements, reads Jim's letter. Then she speaks. Ms. Cole, you committed serious crimes against vulnerable people. You exploited grief and trust. You forged documents and defrauded an entire community. Vanessa stands straight. Yes, Your Honor. You have pled guilty. You have made full restitution. You have begun community service. These are mitigating factors, but they do not erase the harm you caused. I understand, Your Honor. Judge Hammond removes her glasses. I sentence you to 8 years in state prison. However, I am suspending 6 years of that sentence. You will serve 2 years, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. Vanessa closes her eyes, relief and pain crossing her face simultaneously. During probation, you will complete 2,000 hours of community service at Crystal Lake. You will participate in mandatory counseling. You will have no contact with Thomas Brennan or Linda Westbrook. You will file quarterly reports with this court detailing your restitution efforts. Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Cole, you have taken the first steps toward making this right. Do not waste the opportunity. Court is adjourned. After the hearing, Jim walks out into sunlight. Emily beside him, holding baby Robert. 2 years, Emily says. Is that justice? It is a start, Jim replies. And she has 5 years of service after, earning her way back. Would Mom be satisfied? Jim looks at his grandson, sleeping peacefully, innocent, carrying Eleanor's legacy into the future. Mom would say justice without mercy is cruelty. Mercy without justice is meaningless. This is both, so yes, I think she would be satisfied. That evening, Jim returns to the lake. The sun is setting, gold and pink spreading across the water. The meadow is partially restored now, green shoots emerging from dark soil. In a few months, wildflowers will bloom here again. He walks to the spot where he scattered Eleanor's ashes, kneels, touches the earth. We are getting there, Eleanor. Your dream is happening, slowly, imperfectly, but happening. The wind moves through the trees. Sounds like her voice. Almost. Vanessa is trying, really trying. You would be proud of her. Or maybe you always were proud, even when she was destroying everything. He sits until darkness falls, until stars emerge, until the lake is black glass reflecting eternity. His phone buzzes. Text from Tom Chen. Got approval from Parks and Wildlife. Conservation easement moves forward. Official partnership signed. Another text from Dorothy. First educational program scheduled. 20 local kids. Free fishing lessons and nature walk. Another from Sarah. Hydrological report completed. Spring system fully restored. Water quality excellent. Pieces falling into place. Eleanor's vision becoming reality. Jim stands, brushes off dirt, walks back to the truck. Behind him, the lake holds memory and promise in equal measure. Tomorrow work continues. Trails to build, docks to install, programs to plan, a community to heal. But tonight, Jim Thornton allows himself to believe in grace, in change, in the possibility that broken things can be made whole. Not quickly, not easily, but whole. Eleanor knew this. She built her entire life around this belief that love could transform pain, that forgiveness could free both forgiver and forgiven, that even dying, you could plant seeds that would bloom after you were gone. Jim is finally learning what Eleanor always knew. The lake does not belong to him. It never did. It belongs to everyone. It belongs to the water and the wind and the generations who will come after. His job is not to own it, just to protect it, to make sure Eleanor's gift reaches the people she intended it for. He is keeping that promise, one day at a time, one restoration project at a time, one act of grace at a time. And somewhere, in water and light and the whisper of wind through trees, Eleanor is smiling because her impossible husband is learning to love impossible people, is learning that justice and mercy can coexist, is learning that the greatest legacy is not what you keep, but what you give away. The lake remembers. And now, finally, so does Jim. 2 years pass like water over stone, slowly reshaping everything. Jim stands at the entrance to Eleanor Thornton Memorial Conservation Lake on a May morning, watching the sunrise paint the water gold. The dedication ceremony is in 4 hours. 500 people expected. Governor of Colorado confirmed. Media from Denver and Boulder. A celebration 18 months in the making. But right now, in the quiet before the crowd arrives, Jim just wants to remember. The lake house behind him looks the same from outside. Same weathered cedar siding, same dock stretching into the water, same porch where Eleanor used to read on Sunday mornings. But inside, things have changed. Anne's books share shelf space with Eleanor's. Anne's coffee mug sits beside his in the kitchen cabinet. Anne's laughter fills rooms that were silent for too long. Anne Miller, the teacher who volunteered for educational programs 2 years ago, who showed up every week to help plan curriculum, who never pushed, never demanded, just quietly became part of Jim's life, until one day he realized he did not want her to leave. They married 6 months ago. Small ceremony on the dock. Emily as witness. Baby Robert, now 2 years old, as ring bearer. He dropped the rings in the lake. They had to fish them out with a net. Everyone laughed. Eleanor would have loved it. Jim does not love Anne the way he loved Eleanor. That fire burned once and cannot be rekindled. But he loves her differently, steadily, gratefully. The way a man who has known profound loss loves the person who helps him remember how to live. Anne understands this. Never tries to be Eleanor, never competes with a ghost. Just builds something new beside the memory of what was. She emerges from the house now, carrying 2 mugs of coffee, hands him one, stands beside him looking at the lake. Nervous? She asks. Excited. Eleanor would have been nervous. I am just ready for people to see what she envisioned. What you both built? Jim shakes his head. She built it. I just followed her blueprint. You did more than that. You made it real. They stand in comfortable silence. Married people silence. The kind that does not need filling. The conservation area has been open to the public for 6 months. Soft launch while final construction finished. In that time, over 50,000 people have visited. Families, school groups, elderly couples, disabled veterans learning to fish from the accessible docks. Every demographic Eleanor dreamed of serving. 0 incidents, 0 complaints, 0 proof that the HOA board members who predicted chaos and property devaluation were anything but wrong. In fact, Pine Ridge home values increased 18% in 2 years. Turns out, proximity to protected natural beauty is worth more than exclusive HOA amenities. Tom Chen is the new Community Association president. Voluntary membership. No mandatory fees, no enforcement authority, just neighbors helping neighbors. The way Eleanor thought communities should function. Dorothy Patterson runs the volunteer program. Lake Ladies, she calls them. 27 women, mostly elderly, mostly widows, who greet visitors and lead nature walks and tell anyone who will listen about Eleanor Thornton's vision. Sarah Chen manages the engineering and maintenance. Her daughter Lily, now 12, gives youth fishing clinics every Saturday, teaching the next generation the patience Eleanor taught her mother to teach her. And Vanessa. Jim checks his watch. She should be here soon. Released from prison 4 months ago. Completed 2 years with good behavior. Now serving the remaining 3 years of probation through community service. She lives in a small apartment in Boulder, works as a paralegal, makes enough to survive but not enough to be comfortable, spends every weekend at the lake, fulfilling her 2,000 hours of court-ordered service. But Jim suspects she would be here anyway, service or not, because something changed in Vanessa during those 2 years. She went into prison bitter and angry, came out quiet and purposeful. They are not friends, probably never will be. But they are something. Comrades, maybe. 2 people working toward the same goal for different reasons. A truck pulls into the parking lot. Vanessa gets out. She is 60 now, hair gray, no attempt to hide it, face lined but peaceful. She dresses simply, moves with the efficiency of someone who learned not to waste energy on things that do not matter. She sees Jim and Ann, walks over. "Morning," she says. Not quite formal, not quite friendly, just acknowledgement. "Morning," Jim replies. "Are the pavilion chairs set up?" "All 200. Tom Ridgway's crew finished last night. Everything is ready." The pavilion, not the $3 million monstrosity Vanessa originally planned. A simple open-air structure. Pine beams and cedar roof. Enough to shelter people from rain during programs. Nothing fancy. Nothing that competes with nature. Vanessa helped build it. Actual construction. Running electrical, hanging lights, painting trim. 200 hours of sweat equity toward her service requirement. "Your speech ready?" Anne asks her. Vanessa flinches slightly. "I keep rewriting it. I do not know what to say." Jim has read 3 drafts, each one apologizing profusely, each one centering Vanessa's guilt instead of Eleanor's vision. He told her to start over. "Say what Eleanor would want you to say," Jim suggests, "not what you think you owe people." Vanessa nods, looks at the lake. She would want me to talk about second chances, about grace, about how broken people can become whole if someone believes in them. "Then they say that. People will think I'm making it about me." "Some will," Anne says gently, "but some will hear what they need to hear. That mistakes do not have to be the end of the story." Vanessa is quiet for a moment, then, "Thank you for letting me speak today. I know it is controversial." Jim shrugs. "Eleanor forgave you. If I honored that privately but denied you publicly, I would be a hypocrite." By 9 a.m., volunteers arrive, setting up registration tables, arranging refreshments, testing the sound system. The organized chaos of an event coming together. Emily arrives with Mark and Robert. The toddler sees Jim and runs, arms outstretched. "Grandpa!" Jim scoops him up, 2 years old and already full of opinions. He points at the lake. "Fish!" "That is right, buddy. Lots of fish. Want to see the new dock?" Robert nods enthusiastically. Jim carries him down to the water. The accessible dock is Sarah Chen's masterpiece. Wide ramps, stable railings, textured surfaces for traction. Designed so wheelchairs, walkers, and small children can all access the water safely. Jim sets Robert on the dock, holds his hand. They walk to the end together, look out at the water. "See that spot right there? Where the water is really still. That is where Great-Grandma Eleanor is. She loved this lake. She wanted everyone to enjoy it. Even me, especially you. You are named after her grandfather. You carry the legacy." Robert does not understand. He is too. But someday he will. Someday Jim will tell him the full story. About Eleanor's grace. About Vanessa's betrayal and redemption. About how the most important things are worth fighting for even when the fight costs everything. But today, Robert just wants to throw rocks in the water. So they throw rocks. And Jim feels Eleanor smiling. By 11 a.m., the crowd gathers. Folding chairs fill the pavilion. Media sets up cameras. The governor's security detail does a sweep. Jim watches from the edge, trying to stay calm. Anne stands beside him, hand on his arm, grounding him. "You okay?" she asks. "I wish Eleanor could see this." "She can, just not the way we do." Dorothy finds them. She looks elegant in a purple dress, pearls that were her mother's. At 78, she moves slower, but her mind is sharp as ever. "James, the governor wants to meet you before we start. He is in the pavilion." Jim follows her. Governor Richard Morrison, no relation to Harold the attorney, is in his 60s. Career public servant, genuine smile, firm handshake. "Mr. Thornton, this is remarkable. Colorado needs more conservation projects like this. It was my wife's vision. Then she was a remarkable woman. I am honored to dedicate this lake in her memory." At noon, the ceremony begins. Tom Chen welcomes everyone, gives brief history of the lake, explains Eleanor's vision, introduces the speakers. Dorothy speaks first, about being defrauded, about Jim's fight for truth, about the community learning to choose healing over division. "We were lied to," she says, "and we had a choice, stay angry or build something better. James Thornton showed us how to build. Eleanor Thornton showed us why. Today we celebrate both." Sarah Chen speaks next, about Eleanor tutoring Lily, about grace given freely, about legacy measured not in property but in lives changed. "My daughter can read because Eleanor Thornton cared. This lake exists because her husband cared. That is the definition of love, caring when no one is watching, building when no one is applauding, giving when no one is keeping score. Then Vanessa walks to the podium. The crowd goes very quiet. Some faces hostile, some curious, some sympathetic. Everyone knows her story. The forgery, the prison time, the restitution. Everyone has an opinion. Vanessa grips the podium, takes a breath, speaks. My name is Vanessa Cole. Some of you know me as the woman who tried to steal this lake. That is accurate. I did try. I fail. And I'm grateful I failed. She pauses, looks out at the water. Eleanor Thornton was my best friend for 30 years, and I spent those 30 years resenting her. Not because she hurt me, but because she had things I wanted. A happy marriage, financial security, this beautiful lake. I turned my pain into poison. And when Eleanor got sick, I used her dying as an opportunity to take what I could not earn. Some people shift uncomfortably. This is more honesty than they expected. I forged documents. I lied to this community. I hurt 47 families. I built on a dying woman's grave. These are facts I pled guilty because they are true. Vanessa's voice strengthens. But Eleanor believed in second chances. She forgave me before I asked, before I deserved it, before I even understood what I had done. Her husband, James Thornton, could have destroyed me, could have demanded maximum sentences, could have made sure I lost everything and never recovered. Instead, he gave me a chance to make things right. Not because I deserved it, because that is what Eleanor taught him. That grace is not about deserving, it is about becoming. She looks directly at Jim. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that grace, not to earn forgiveness. You cannot earn what has already been freely given, but to honor it, to become the person Eleanor believed I could be. Vanessa steps back from the podium. The applause is scattered at first, then builds, not everyone, but enough. She returns to her seat. Jim catches her eye, nods once. Respect between people who have walked through fire and came out changed. The governor speaks next. About public-private partnerships, about conservation, about legacy. Political but sincere. Then it is Jim's turn. He walks to the podium, looks out at 500 faces, sees Emily holding Robert, sees Anne in the front row, sees Dorothy and Sarah and Tom and all the volunteers who made this possible. And in his mind he sees Eleanor. Blue sundress, bright smile, holding his hand. Eleanor Whitmore Thornton died 3 years ago, he begins. Stage 4 cancer. She fought hard. She lost. But before she lost, she made sure this lake would survive. My wife could have kept this property private, could have enjoyed it exclusively for our family. Instead, she planned a conservation area, public access, free programming, nature available to everyone. Some people thought she was naive, thought opening the lake would lead to overcrowding, vandalism, property devaluation. They were wrong. In 6 months, 50,000 people have visited. 0 incidents, 0 damage. Just families enjoying what my wife wanted them to enjoy. Natural beauty, peaceful water, space to breathe. Jim's voice catches slightly. Eleanor believed everyone deserves beauty, not just people who can afford it. Everyone. She believed nature heals, that water remembers, that when we gather by lakes and streams, we remember who we are supposed to be. This lake was her family's legacy. She chose to share it, not sell it, not control it. Share it. That is the difference between possession and stewardship. She understood we do not own nature. We just borrow it from our children. He looks at Robert. My grandson is 2 years old. He is named after the man who bought this land in 1968, Robert Whitmore, who wanted his family to have a place of peace. Eleanor honored his memory by making that peace available to everyone. I am honoring her memory by completing what she started. So today, we dedicate this conservation area, not to my wife's memory, to her vision, the belief that we can be better, that we can choose community over exclusion, that we can forgive the unforgivable, that we can build from the ashes of what was broken. Jim pauses, finds the words Eleanor would want him to say. If my wife were here, she would tell you this lake does not belong to me. It belongs to you, to your children, to your grandchildren, to everyone who needs a place to remember that the world is still beautiful, that grace is still possible, that love still wins. Welcome to Eleanor's Lake. May it heal you the way she healed everyone she touched. The applause is immediate. Standing ovation. 500 people on their feet. Jim steps back from the podium. Anne is there, hugging him, Emily crying happy tears, Dorothy beaming, Sarah giving him a thumbs up. And somewhere, in water and light, and the whisper of wind through trees, Eleanor is applauding too. The ribbon cutting happens at the main entrance. Giant red ribbon across the gate. Governor Morrison and Jim hold the scissors together. Count to 3. Cut. The ribbon falls. The gate opens. Eleanor Thornton Memorial Conservation Lake is officially public. Families pour in. Children run to the docks. Elderly couples settle on benches. A disabled veteran in a wheelchair rolls down the accessible ramp, fishing rod across his lap. His face when he reaches the water, when he casts his first line, is worth every dollar Jim spent, every fight he fought, every sleepless night. Jim watches the lake fill with people, all ages, all backgrounds, all coming together around water and beauty. This is what Eleanor saw. This is what she died protecting. Anne finds him an hour later. You should eat something. You have been standing here watching for an hour. I'm watching Eleanor's dream come true. She would be proud of you. She would be proud of us. All of us, even Vanessa. Especially Vanessa, Anne corrects. Eleanor always believed in the hard redemptions. By evening, the crowd thins. Families head home. Volunteers clean up. Jim walks the perimeter one final time, checking every detail, making sure everything is perfect. He finds Vanessa sitting on a bench near the North Meadow, the spot where the Pavilion Foundation used to be. Now it is wildflowers, native species, carefully restored, blooming in purples and yellows and whites. Jim sits beside her. They do not speak for a long moment. Just watch the sunset paint the water in shades of fire. Finally, Vanessa says, "Thank you." For what? For letting me be part of this. For giving me a chance to contribute instead of just destroy. Eleanor gave you the chance. I just did not block it. You did more than that. You showed me what grace looks like in action. Not words, not sentiment. Actual grace. Letting someone earn their way back to being human. Jim thinks about this. Eleanor taught me something. That forgiveness is not about forgetting what someone did. It is about not letting what they did define them forever. You did terrible things, but you are not a terrible person. Just a person who did terrible things and is trying to do better. Is there a difference? There has to be. Otherwise, redemption is impossible. And if redemption is impossible, hope dies. They sit until stars emerge, until the lake is black glass reflecting infinity. Then they stand, walk back to the parking lot together. Same time next Saturday? Vanessa asks. Same time. We have 3 more picnic tables to install. Vanessa gets in her truck, drives away. Jim watches her taillights disappear, thinks about the arc of grace, how it bends but does not break, how it holds even when holding seems impossible. Anne is waiting at the house. She has dinner ready. Pasta. Eleanor's recipe. Anne found it in the kitchen drawer, asked if she could use it. Jim said yes. Some traditions are worth keeping. They eat on the porch. Watch the last light fade from the sky. Talk about the day, the turnout, the speeches, the governor's promise of state funding for expanded programming. Eleanor would have loved today, Anne says. She would have been terrified, Jim corrects. Public speaking made her nervous, but yes, she would have loved it. Do you think about her every day? Every day. But it does not hurt the way it used to. Now it is just part of who I am. A man who is loved by an extraordinary woman and is trying to be worthy of that love. Anne takes his hand. You already are. They sit in comfortable silence until the cold drives them inside. 6 months later, winter. The lake freezes over. Jim stands at the edge of the ice, remembering. 3 years ago today, Eleanor died. He has marked this anniversary 3 times now, each one different, each one teaching him something about grief. The first anniversary, he could barely function. Just pain, raw and consuming. The second anniversary, he was angry. At cancer, at fate, at Vanessa, at everything. This third anniversary, he feels something new. Not happiness, not quite, but acceptance. Eleanor is gone. She is not coming back. And he has learned to live in the world without her. He has also learned she is not entirely gone. She exists in the lake, in the conservation area, in Robert's laughter, in Vanessa's redemption, in Dorothy's leadership, in every child who learns to fish here, in every family who finds peace by this water. Legacy is not what you leave behind. It is what continues because you existed. Eleanor continues. Robert, now 2.5, trudges through snow holding Jim's hand. Anne follows with hot chocolate in a thermos. Why we here, Grandpa? To remember great-grandma Eleanor. Today is the day she went to heaven. Where heaven? Jim points up. Up there, past the clouds, where Grandma watches over us. Robert considers this. She see me? Every day, she loves you very much. I love her too. Simple faith of a child. Uncomplicated. Pure. They stand by the frozen lake for a few minutes. Then Robert gets cold, and they head back to the warmth of the house. Inside, Jim makes a decision. He goes to Eleanor's desk, still in the corner of the living room, still holding her things. He has avoided this desk for 3 years, unable to face sorting through her life. But today feels right. Anniversary of death, but also celebration of what endures. He opens drawers slowly, finds letters, photographs, her journal, the crossword puzzle she never finished, her reading glasses. At the bottom of the deepest drawer, he finds an envelope, his name on the front, Eleanor's handwriting. Different from the other letters. This one sealed with wax, like something important, something final. Jim's hands shake as he opens it. Inside, a single page, dated 1 week before Eleanor died. My darling Jim, it begins. My darling Jim, if you are reading this, I have been gone a while. Long enough for the sharpest pain to dull. Long enough for you to start living again. I hope you are living again. I hope you have not made a shrine of grief. I want you to know something. Loving you was the greatest joy of my life. Every morning I woke up grateful. Every night I went to sleep blessed. You made ordinary days extraordinary just by being in them. But Jim, I am gone now, and you are still here. And I need you to do something for me. Live, really live. Not just survive, not just get through days. Actually live them. Fall in love again if you can. Not to replace me, you cannot replace what we had, but to find something new, something different, something that honors what we were by not ending with my death. Laugh again. The world needs your laughter. Build again. You are an engineer. Building is what you do. Build the lake, build community, build a life that makes you proud. And forgive Vanessa. I know I have asked this before, but I am asking again, because forgiveness will free you more than it will free her. Carrying anger is exhausting. Put it down, let it go, let grace do its work. Finally, remember me. But do not be paralyzed by the memory. I lived fully. I loved completely. I did what I was meant to do. My story is complete. Yours is not. Keep writing it. Make it beautiful. Make it worth the love we shared. I will always be with you. In the water, in the light, in the wind through the trees. Listen carefully and you will hear me. I love you, James Thornton. I loved you from the moment I met you until the moment I died. I will love you in whatever comes after. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. Live well, my darling, for both of us. Always yours, Eleanor. Jim reads the letter 3 times. Then he folds it carefully, puts it in his pocket, carries it close to his heart. He walks outside into the winter evening, snow falling softly. The lake a sheet of white under darkening sky. Anne is building a snowman with Robert. They are laughing. Robert's nose is red from cold, but he is happy. Jim joins them, helps lift Robert to place the carrot nose, watches his grandson's face light up with joy. This is what Eleanor meant. Living, not just surviving, actually being present in moments, finding joy, building memories, loving the people in front of you. That night, after Robert is asleep and Anne is reading by the fire, Jim goes to Eleanor's desk one more time, opens the bottom drawer, places the letter back inside. He does not need to carry it anymore. The message is received, permission granted. Life can continue. He closes the desk drawer, turns off the light, joins Anne by the fire. Everything okay? She asks. Everything is good, Jim says, and means it. Spring arrives, the ice melts, the lake returns to liquid, wildflowers bloom in the meadow. The conservation area comes alive with color and sound and families. Jim teaches fishing clinics every Saturday, 10 kids per class, patient instruction. The way Eleanor taught him to teach, slow, encouraging, celebrating small victories. Vanessa completes her 2,000th hour of community service. Court releases her from probation. She is free. Jim thought she might leave, move away, start fresh somewhere else. Instead, she stays, continues volunteering, says the lake needs her, says she needs the lake. They work together now without awkwardness, planting trees, maintaining trails, greeting visitors. Not friends exactly, but something, comrades in the work of making Eleanor's dream permanent. One Saturday, they are repairing a fence when Vanessa says, "I am thinking about going back to school, getting a degree in environmental science." Why? Because I spent 30 years destroying things. I want to spend the next 30 building them. Jim hammers another nail. Eleanor would like that. Would you write me a recommendation letter for the university application? Jim pauses, looks at her, sees not the woman who forged documents, sees the woman who worked 2,000 hours to make things right, who paid full restitution, who showed up every weekend for 3 years, who changed. I would be honored, he says. 6 months later, Vanessa starts classes at CU Boulder, Environmental Policy and Conservation Management. She is 61, oldest student in most classes, does not care. Jim attends her first semester presentation. She speaks about restoration ecology, about the Eleanor Thornton Memorial Lake as case study, about how damaged ecosystems can heal if given proper care and time. It is a good presentation. Well-researched, professionally delivered. Jim is proud. Eleanor would be proud. After the presentation, Vanessa finds him in the hall. "Thank you for coming." "You did well, really well." "I have a good teacher. The lake teaches me something every day." "What does it teach you?" Vanessa thinks about this. That broken things can be made whole. That patience matters more than speed. That what you build is more important than what you destroy. Eleanor knew all that, Jim says. "I know, I'm just finally learning." The years continue. Robert grows, starts kindergarten, learns to read, learns to swim, learns that his great-grandma Eleanor was someone special who gave the lake to everyone. Emily has another baby. A girl this time. They name her Eleanor Grace. Little Ellie. She has Eleanor's eyes. Jim holds her in the hospital, feels the circle completing. Eleanor lives in this child, not reincarnation, just legacy, passing forward what matters. Anne retires from teaching, becomes full-time volunteer coordinator at the lake. She is good at it, organized, warm. The volunteers love her. Dorothy turns 80, still leading tours, still telling Eleanor's story to anyone who will listen. Sarah Chen becomes Colorado's youngest Parks and Wildlife Commissioner, uses her position to advocate for more conservation areas like Eleanor's Lake. Tom Chen expands the community association, now representing 4 neighborhoods. Model of voluntary cooperation. No mandatory fees. No enforcement authority. Just neighbors helping neighbors. The lake thrives. Visitor count reaches 150,000 annually. Still 0 major incidents. Proof that Eleanor's vision works. 5 years after the dedication ceremony, Jim stands on the dock at sunrise. Same spot where he proposed to Eleanor 37 years ago. Same spot where he scattered her ashes. Same spot where he has come 10,000 times to think, to grieve, to remember, to heal. Anne stands beside him. They have been married 5 years now. Good years, not the passionate romance of youth, the steady companionship of people who have loved and lost and found each other anyway. "What are you thinking about?" Anne asks. "Eleanor, always Eleanor on this dock." "I am not jealous, you know, of what you had with her. I know. She made you who you are, the man I fell in love with. I am grateful to her." Jim takes Anne's hand. "She would like you. You are both teachers, both believers in second chances, both stubborn enough to love difficult men." Anne laughs. "You are not difficult, you are just deep." They watch the sun clear the mountains, light flooding across the water. Another day beginning at Eleanor Thornton Memorial Conservation Lake. Behind them, the lake house. Ahead of them, the water. Around them, the community Eleanor built through her death. Jim thinks about the journey, from grief to anger to understanding to acceptance to peace. 5 years of learning to live without the woman he loved while honoring everything she stood for. He kept his promises, protected the lake, completed her vision, showed grace to Vanessa, forgave the unforgivable, built something that will last long after he is gone. Eleanor's legacy is secure, and Jim Thornton, widower, engineer, grandfather, husband to 2 extraordinary women, has finally learned what Eleanor spent her life trying to teach him. Love does not end when life does. It just changes form, becomes memory, becomes legacy, becomes the foundation on which others build their lives. Eleanor is gone, but Eleanor endures, in water and light, and the laughter of children learning to fish, in wildflowers blooming where concrete used to be, in Vanessa's transformation from destroyer to builder, in Dorothy's leadership, in Sarah's advocacy, in a community that chose healing over hatred, and in Jim himself, still standing, still building, still loving, still becoming the man Eleanor believed he could be. The water remembers, the dock remembers, the stars remember. And Jim Thornton, finally at peace, remembers too. Not with pain, not with regret, just with gratitude. For the love he had, for the life he shared, for the woman who taught him that grace is stronger than grief, that forgiveness is freedom, that the greatest legacy is what you give away. He turns from the water, takes Anne's hand, walks back toward the house. Behind them, the lake holds light like a promise. Ahead of them, another day, another chance to build, another opportunity to honor Eleanor by living well. The story is complete. The circle is closed. The promise is kept. Eleanor's lake belongs to everyone now, just as she wanted. And Jim Thornton, the man who loved her, the man who fought for her dream, the man who learned to let go while holding on, can finally say the words that have been waiting 5 years to be spoken. Thank you, Eleanor, for everything, for the love, for the lake, for believing I could do this even when I did not believe it myself. I kept my promise. Your dream is real. Rest easy, my love. The water remembers, and so do I. Always.